Why don't you just welcome us, and then we'll take over.
Sure, sure. Okay, so welcome all of you. Thank you so much for joining this career conversation session. We have our students over here who are, most of them are high schoolers. They have been mentored by RJK for a mentorship, radio mentorship. And we just wanted to see how we can inspire them and, spark their interest further in radio journalism. So with that, I would hand it over to Mr. Rakesh Bakshi, who's the author of Let's Talk on Air. Hi, Mr. Rakesh.
Hi, Alistair. How are you?
Good. All good over here.
So
How
first, please tell us that why did you choose a name like Unheard? What went behind that? What is the thought behind keeping the name of the company Unheard?
So it definitely does not mean not heard. It means doing different from the herd mentality, right? We see in India specifically a lot of students picking up engineering, medicine, the conventional careers, right? The rat race. So how do you do something different, something that fits your interest, something that fits your skill set? And that's where the name came about, Unheard, doing different from the herd.
And also, I think unheard can also mean that you're unheard right now, but if you follow your dream and if you are consistent, persistent, and you're hardworking and you're honest to you're honest to yourself more than to the world, you will be heard.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's how these people who will be married today on the show, all of them, all the panelists, the radio jockeys, I think that's what made them stand out, that they had a voice that was unheard in the sense that it was unique. And if their voice was what was being heard otherwise, then they would not have been noticed. I think they have got noticed only because they were unheard, in the sense that they were unique. And because they were unique, they have been able to rise above the noise, rise above the crowd. Anita, what do you have to say to that?
Chaudhary on here.
Sorry. I think all of us have a voice. Okay. And you just have to find the fit of where that voice can be fit perfectly and voice what you have on your mind. I mean, if you don't voice it out, you'll never be heard. And I think Unheard is doing a fantastic job there, where they're actually giving you a cue, or rather giving you an opening, an opportunity of where you can discover your voice. And that becomes what is running in your mind. What are you thinking of, and what is it that you would really like to do?
Arvind, would you like to add something to this thought? Arvind?
Imagine a world with so much happening around us. We all have so many different opinions, some good, some bad, some decent, some moderate, some balance here, some anger here, some depression there. Quite a mix of all the emotions. And that's what makes a radio presenter. Radio presenters are not from some other planet. They feel the same way that all of us normally do. We have our breakups, we have good days, we have bad days, we lose loved ones, we still come on radio, we talk. The point is, all the emotions inside us, just imagine you put that into a room, you're given a mic, and there you go. You let that energy out. You just let that alter ego out. I think all of us can safely agree we're like a little bit of a Bruce Wayne and a Batman kind of a thing. Once we get into the studios, we are, bit of the caped crusader. We forget that Bruce Wayne, that rich guy who has absolutely no problems, and there comes Batman right there, in the studios, talking and letting his heart out. I think that's what all of us do. We go with the songs, we talk our hearts out, and we hope that somewhere, on the other side of radio, there is someone who's connecting to you. There's someone who's listening to you. And when I say listening, not from the ears, but from the heart. You talk from the heart, you get heard from the heart. And that's where my compliments to Unheard and the entire team for doing such a wonderful job, training, mentoring young students, so that all the questions that they have, all the doubts they have in the changing world of radio and journalism, that could be answered. I mean, we never know. We have so many young students here, and Kay is doing such a wonderful job. Rakesh, along with you. Alistair, I can see your smiling face there. You're looking as cute as ever. Who knows, someday, all the radio presenters on this panel, including, and by that time, I think in the next 5-6 years, Rakesh would graduate to becoming a grandfather. Just around ki umr ho rahi hai. But it would be great if one person or even everyone from this particular panel goes on to, do something really extraordinary. then we could say, hey, we played a small part, right there in the discussion, which set the right cause and condition in a young mind. Yeah, that's it.
Lovely. Fali, would you like to add something to the thought which I started by saying that to be heard, what does it take to be heard in this world?
I think the most important thing to be heard is that you must have your own unique voice and you must be confident about yourself. It's very important. And also, one important thing, if you want to become a media personality, be a radio jockey, a TV presenter, anybody, even become a great author like you, what's the most important thing? Yes, yes. The most important thing is that you have to be humble. You can't think you're better than other people. You have to treat everybody equally and understand them and listen to them. The greatest people who work on radio, who write books, who make movies, who do things, they listen to other people and then they're able to absorb what people are saying, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. That's what makes a great artist, in whatever field you are. And I can tell one thing to all the panelists over there and to, of course, all watching us, that Rakesh is a man who does everything from his heart. So whatever he does, it's true feeling. It's not for any other reason. So let's just give a big hand, man.
Thank you. So one of the reasons that I chose this panel, the reason why we are seeing these faces and we are hearing these voices today, because it's about being, is because most of the panelists that are invited for the event today are also teaching radio journalism. They're also teaching radio broadcasting. They're teaching media. All of them, I think, except Vaishali. But that doesn't mean that she's not, good enough to be here with us. She brings her own unique voice and her own unique heart to her show. So all of them are teachers. They're all teaching in absolutely reputed, eminent institutions in Bombay. So I chose to be the moderator, but I really don't want to be a moderator. I just thought, because there is a word called moderator and I didn't know what other word to use for myself. So I thought, okay, let me be the moderator. But actually, I wanted all of you to be moderators today. So when we speak, I'm not necessarily going to be moderating. I would like you people to take feed from the person who last spoke. And if you have something to add to that, I want you to, come in on your own, raise your hand and come in on your own and contribute to what somebody has just said. So I don't really want to moderate you guys. I want to just be somebody like a producer of a film. I just bring people together. I want each of you to moderate each other and the team together, so that these 14 students who are with us today, and even others who are with us today, and even the people who are watching us live, they can get, they probably should feel that this probably was amongst one of the best, richest moments of our life. And even this moments will never come back again. So continuing on the same thought about being heard, what does it take in this world to be heard? Sonali, what would you like to add to that? You yourself are a teacher, you're a tutor yourself of radio journalism and media.
Yeah.
Sonali.
Basically, it's like when you hear something from anyone, the one thing which you usually do is to judge anyone. Like when you take a particular type of education, like जो भी आप पढ़ते हैं या जो भी आप कहते हैं, so एक अपने आप में एक आ जाता है कि भाई ये automatically we start judging people. And radio, I personally feel is a very non-judgmental medium. It's like like माइक के पीछे कौन है, ये वो कैसा दिखता है, वो कैसा है या वो कैसी है, इससे बहुत ज्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. It's just the voice where we are communicating the emotions, right? Everybody said, Arvind said and Fali said, the genuinity, the humbleness, the emotions which we deliver through our voice is something जो सबके दिलों से दिलों को connect करते हैं. And the moment where this comes and the moment where he is engineer or she's or this or that, ये सारा जो बैगेज रहता है वो शायद कहीं पीछे छूट जाता है. एंड इमोशंस एंड नॉन जजमेंटल फैक्ट्स एक दूसरे के साथ जब कनेक्ट हो जाते हैं, द कनेक्शन इज रियली वेरी प्योर. And that is the reason I feel कि radio is something really important, definitely. And Unheard is doing fantastic job, like because एक हमेशा एक ही तरह के पैटर्न पे आज तक सारी दुनिया चलती आई है. एंड जस्ट टू शो समथिंग कि नहीं, इसके अलावा भी, मतलब कहते हैं ना, और भी जहां है दुनिया में टाइप से. सो बेसिकली ये बहुत जरूरी है आज की दुनिया में, because like how many engineers, how many doctors, how many the same profession, because there are people who are really creative, those who want to really do something. I have seen like students in my class also, they are like dropped out after second year of engineering, or they have taken drop ki I don't know what to do. And that moment an organization like Unheard जब इस तरह से सिनेरियो में आती है, जो लोगों को गाइड करती है, ये बताती है कि कितना सही है अपने हार्ट को फॉलो करना या अपने इमोशंस को फॉलो करना, एंड somewhere it is really very important. So I really feel कि being a radio person, it's like एक इमोशंस के साथ में आई फील कि एक नॉन जजमेंटल जो एक बिहेवियर होता है हर एक इंसान के साथ जुड़ा हुआ, दैट टू प्लेज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल. आई रियली फील सो, एंड thank you so much Unheard for giving this opportunity to share our emotions and thoughts with everyone.
Sonali, can I just,
Rakesh ji.
with all your permission, I just like to add something. So it's been 14 years. It's been 14 years in radio for me now. Whenever I meet students, Rakesh, there's one thing that's common. You may change the cities, but it all starts with, when I ask people, why do you want to be a radio presenter? Why do you want to be in journalism? It looks very cool from the outside. Most people are fascinated with the fact that, oh, Jock looks so cool with the headphone. Oh, this is what I wanted to do. I have a good voice. I'm so friendly. I've always been fascinated with radio. These are the kind of common answers that I normally keep getting. And I keep telling them, what you're fascinated is falling in love with the idea of being in love, but not in love with the medium itself. You look at the Jock from the outside, you think, oh, he or she is so cool, influencers, getting to meet all the celebs, all the key people in the city. All of this stuff is so cool. But like Alistair said, there is something called a rat race in radio and media also. And that's the reality, you need to tell students. And it's even worse than being an engineer or a doctor. I mean, all of us can safely agree in our respective offices. You're dealing in a profession where you've got to constantly take criticism. An engineer doctor doesn't come back to his house and has the entire city judging him. Imagine you're sitting down with your friends and your family members, and then, someone says, hey, what does Kay do? What does Arvind do? And like, oh, he does a morning show in Radio 1. Oh, I never heard you. I mean, there's pin drop silence after that, all of a sudden, if something like this happens. So the point I'm trying to make is, there's a lot of criticism that you need to take. There will be people with different opinions who come and keep telling you, yeah, mere ko ye aapka show pasand nahi aaya. I didn't like the way you presented this particular thing. So I equate radio and journalism with sports because I love sports so much. And most of my role models have been sports people. What is it about a Roger Federer or a Rafael Nadal or a Tiger Woods or a Sachin Tendulkar that keeps them going? It's not the money. It's not the Ferrari in the garage. They still keep practicing that same shot even after they make that 100 crores, just like they did on that first day. And that practice, makes them all the more perfect once they come on the cricket field or the tennis court. A radio jockey on a micro level is exceedingly similar. You may feel all that excitement in the first 6 months, first 3 months and the first 4 months. Oh, it's cool. I have a room. I have a studio. I'm doing a show for 3 hours. Log sun rahe hain. What happens after that initial phase, that golden phase gets over? That's when your personality starts evolving. That's when you got to be like that sports person. You got to keep practicing. You got to be honest to yourself. You got to stay updated with the world around you. You got to read more, interact more, find stories. That's what I do. I keep telling students, everyone has a story to share. K. Machado here has a story to share. Rakesh Bakshi has a story to share. Anita has a story to share. Vaishali has a story to share. And each one of us, we may have different stories, but fundamentally there's something that connects all of us from different parts of the country or different parts of the globe. A radio presenter or a journalist just needs to find that one trigger, If anyone has a story to share, you just need to get that story and trigger those right emotions in people and make a difference with the words, whether you talk, whether you write. It's just that energy that you put in, how much you believe in it. That's the way I see radio. It's all about passion. It's all about continuously changing. The world is changing around us, man. 6 months back, the world was very different. 6 months down the lane, the world is going to be very different. How ready are you to adapt to the changing world? You may sit back and say, I may have a very friendly voice and I have an exceedingly friendly personality, but trust me, when the drop down in the clock says 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you got to switch on the mic and go live and say, hey, good morning, Kolkata, this is 94.3 Radio 1. It just doesn't come unless you do it from here. I mean, from the heart. And that's the same when you sit down to write. I'm a writer myself. I mean, how many times has it been that you need inspiration to write around you? So, I mean, that's what I keep telling all my students, Rakesh. Look at the world around you. Look at your housekeeping guy. Look at, the watchman in your complex. Look at the guy who parks, that Mercedes in your complex once again. Look at your boss. Look at your colleagues. Look at your friends around you. Look at everyone around you. Don't be judgmental. All that I'm trying to tell you is observe their stories and see what they like and see what connects each one of us on a common ground. I mean, I hope that sound too intellectual, but yeah, that's the whole point. Find something that is very universal to talk and write about.
Let me. I think I should share why I wrote a book on radio jockeys. The book Let's Talk on Air that your credit. Hello.
Yeah.
I think we can ask everyone to put their microphones on mute.
Yeah, mute. We are on mute, Rakesh. Go on.
Okay. So I think I must share why I wrote the book. I mean, the book that I mean.
Anyone's ever asked you that question, Rakesh? Why have you written the book? Honestly, yes.
Yeah. So the reason I wrote the book was it goes back to my childhood. When I was a kid, I'm a kid from the 60s, mid 60s, and at that time there was no television, there was no smartphones. The only entertainment we had was cinema halls and the radio. So I was hooked to radio, and the reason I was hooked to radio not because of the songs. It was because I was fascinated as a child that my daddy's name comes on radio. Because my dad, his career took off from 1965, 64, 65 onwards from a movie called Jab Jab Phool Khile. From Jab Jab Phool Khile, his career rose and he kept rising as a songwriter, and he never looked back after that till 2002 till he passed away. So as a child, daily, I mean, I would hear his name coming on radio at least 20, 30 times a day. His name would come. और गीत लिखा है आनंद बख्शी और गीतकार है आनंद बख्शी. इस गीत के संगीतकार हैं लक्ष्मीकांत प्यारेलाल या आर डी बर्मन या कल्याण जी आनंद जी या एस डी बर्मन और गीतकार हैं आनंद बख्शी. So for me it was fascinating कि अरे डैडी का नाम रेडियो पे आता है यार. Wow. So that actually got me hooked to radio. But as I grew older and I started understanding lyrics, then I started liking the lyrics. Then I started understanding music. I started liking the music. And then there was a very long gap when I was not hearing radio. But when my father passed away in 2002, for the first time, radio jockeys began calling me up. The radio jockeys I was hearing only, they started calling me up for interviews. Okay, your dad's birth anniversary is coming in March. Can you speak something about your dad's work? Your dad's death anniversary is coming up. Can you speak something about your dad? So I started meeting radio jockeys because so it's very strange that the very person because of whose name I wanted to hear on radio, because of who I got hooked to radio, he had to die. He had to leave Earth for radio jockeys to come in my life. So then I started meeting radio jockeys. I started going to radio stations. I started meeting them, and I found them to be very interesting people. They were full of stories. They were full of thoughts. They were full of energy. Anyways, again, time went by, and then I happened to write my own first book as an author, Director's Diaries. It was the first time I did something of my own in this world. Otherwise, I was always called Anand Bakshi's son, which is great. I'm very proud of his name, of being known as Anand Bakshi also. But when I wrote my own book, then radio presenters started calling me up for my interview, for myself, for something I had done, not my dad had done. So it was a great moment for me to again get close to them, meet them, go to the studio, talk to them on the phone for a long time. And as I got more and more deep into these acquaintanships, into friendships, some became friendships, like Arvind became a friend of mine. Rishi Khanna became a friend of mine. Anita became a friend of mine. But as I came closer to radio jockeys, I realized that these people are so interesting. They are so full of positivity and energy. Even if they're going through the worst, shittiest day ever, the most screwed up day, but still they will make us feel good on air. They will make us feel good during the radio shows. So I thought that these people are telling me stories about a flood in the city. They're telling me stories about a bomb blast in Bombay. They're telling me stories about a movie that has not done well, or they're talking about an NGO, or they're talking about a dog on the street that needs to be fed food, or they're talking about somebody who's been abandoned by his or her family. Why is no one telling their stories? These guys are full of stories for everybody else. They're talking about the universe, they're talking about the world, they're talking about their home, they're talking about their daddies, their abbas, their ammis. But no one is asking them, hey dude, what's your story? Yeah? How come you came to radio? What made you become a radio jockey? So that curiosity, that why, how come these guys became radio jockeys? What did it take to reach her? Is the reason I wrote the book, because I felt that this radio industry is more than 100 years old, and there's not a single book in the world on these people. There are book on actors, there are book on artists, on painters, on singers. How come there's no book on radio jockeys? Amongst the oldest media professions. It's older than TV. It's older than cinema. Cinema, it came first. It's the first baby that was born. Media's first baby is radio. Before newsprint. So that's the reason why I wrote this book. Yeah, let's talk on air. So anyway, coming to K, what do you have to share with us about what I began with that? What does it mean to be heard? What does it mean to you to be heard? Okay, let's forget the world. Let's talk about you. What do you think it takes why do you think you are being able to be heard?
I want to differ from one point that Arvind said, where he said that we're like Bruce Wayne and Batman. The difference is that Bruce Wayne has money. So aside from that, I mean, honestly, to be heard, I think is honestly as I'm sure everyone will agree, is a privilege. We are extremely
absolutely
blessed.
correct. It's a privilege.
Yeah.
It's a privilege that Mike is a blessing from the universe. Blessing.
Here's the funny thing, though, in a vastly digital age where everybody has a mic now, it becomes extremely, I think, all the more truthful to come from a medium that has been around for a lot more time than, say, something like social media, which where everybody has a mic, everybody has an opinion, everybody has something to say. I genuinely feel that weirdly, and what I've found is the fact that even when you see the digital age and you see social media influencers, we always, and I'm sure everybody on this panel can kind of agree, I get messages from people, from social media influencers, who say that, hey, can we come on your show? Can we talk about XYZ? It's because there's so much noise on social media. I'm not even talking about it from a positive, negative sense. I'm just saying there's noise. That they feel that in order to be verified as truth, they have to have a medium, they have to be on TV, they have to be on radio and things like that. And that's where I kind of feel it kind of boils down to, being heard, honestly, like I said, is a privilege. But listening to our listeners out there, and, when they send a message, something simple as, I'm sure in the olden times, we should send physical letters, being able to listen to what they have to say is not a privilege, it's an honor. And it's one that must definitely not be taken lightly. And honestly, it's the simple things like that. It's a message you'll get in the morning while you're doing the show. It's a call you'll get while you're doing the show. It's a DM you'll get late at night because somebody heard you do something there and it made them feel better. So yeah, being heard is a privilege, but to be able to listen to people is an honor.
Vaishali, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I have lots, as you know, I have a lot to say. What I want to say is that what Kay said, what Fali said, Arvind, Sonali, Anita, all of them, and even you, Rakesh, what all of you all said, like being able to speak and to get that audience, it is definitely a privilege. But what I'll also say is that medium like be it television or be it radio, these are this is traditional media, and till date that's the reason why, despite of YouTube and the mic being there with everyone, this media still holds good and holds strong. The reason being, it's traditional, it's tried and tested, it's old. So, if in this day and age, the very first tendency, now I'm not talking about the absolutely new generation, but, even people who are not that young, the first thing they will do is, switch on the TV or they will switch on the radio to hear what is authentic. So what is authentic is still being relayed, being broadcasted on radio and on television. So this is the power of radio and TV, because I know, like being from Akashvani, I will say that I know if I want to hear something authentic, I switch on to Vivid Bharati or Akashvani, and I know that this piece of news, this piece of information is authentic. So that's what separates radio from the clutter, I feel, and traditional media, I feel. This is one thing. Secondly, I feel what what is radio? Radio is not about what I am. मैं हूँ वैशाली. Okay, I am वैशाली. मैं ये कर सकती हूँ, वो कर सकती हूँ. This is what I did. That is what I. This is what I feel. That is what I feel. No, that's not what Vaishali on radio is. Vaishali is someone who knows what her listener is feeling, what her listener wants to hear. मेरे listener को क्या सुनना है, उसे क्या सुनने में अच्छा लगेगा. What does he want? So a good radio jockey is a person who knows कि मेरे listener को, मेरे audience को क्या चाहिए, without patronizing anyone or anything. What is it that today my friends hear, for example, what do they want to hear? What is something that they will connect to? What is something they like? So like Arvind said, कि पहले जो charm रहता है, what he said, he tells his students and stuff like that. So what happens beyond that, beyond the chakachons and glitz and whatever, is what it is that will make the other person stay hooked on, want more of me, listen to me, lekin without it being about myself. It should be about him, about them. So that is what I feel radio is all about, and that's why it has a place in everyone's heart, special place hai. And like they all said, we have our listeners who call in, who tell us stories, जो बहुत सारा बोलते हैं. Rakesh, I can't tell you, there are these minutest of personal things to the great big things like आजकल क्या चल रहा है, इतना सब चल रहा है. As radio jockeys, we just need to touch upon it and we start getting calls कि हाँ आपने बहुत सही बोला, ये ऐसे चल रहा है, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है. So what do they want to know? कि एक साधारण इंसान के तौर पर, because obviously like in one of our previous sessions we had said that a radio jockey is not like where other celebrities personalities are right on top, but we are someone in between. तो वो जानना चाहते हैं हमारे जैसा इंसान क्या कहेगा ऐसे सिचुएशन में, without being controversial and without all that. तो वो लोग जानना चाहते हैं. और जब हम बोलते हैं ना उनके दिल की बात कि यार ठीक है, जो सब होना है, पता चलना है, वो तो धीरे धीरे पता चलने ही वाला है. अभी के लिए क्या करना है, बस अपना बहुत काम है, सभी को काम वाम खत्म करो, अच्छी सी किताब उठाओ, just lose yourself in the story. बाकी सब होता रहेगा. अपनी एक दुनिया बनाओ, उसमें खो जाओ. So something like that. So this is what, according to me, it is. Yeah.
So what I would like to add to this would be taking the cue from what Vaishali said, that what does my listener want to hear? What does he or she want to hear? What he or she will like? I am of the opposite thought. I have written books so far from an opposite side of the spectrum. I have always, so far the 3 books I've written and even the next one I'm writing, I am thinking more about myself, that what would interest me. And I feel that what will interest me will interest 500,000 at least, if not not a billion and not a million, at least 500,000 will be interested by what I'm interested in, because somewhere हम सब जुड़े हुए हैं. We are all the same. Your clothes are different, my clothes are different, your sex is different, my sex is different, my age, my personality is different. But deep down inside, I believe that we are all the same. Even if I get down from a Mercedes Benz, deep down, what touches me is going to touch you if it comes from my heart. If it comes from your heart, it's going to touch me, even if you are living off the street or you're living in a palace. So that's my thought. So I would like Anita to add something to this. Anita, what do you say?
I think it's really important to be passionate about certain subjects that really come from the heart. So whether Arvind loves sports, I mean, when you speak about sports, you make sure that it's as authentic, as factual, as statistical, whatever you're going to give that information. If I know my music, if I love music,
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you like Arnav Goswami. I'm going to interrupt you. Okay, Anita?
Go ahead.
I'm going to interrupt you because I want you to cut straight to your teenage years. Tell me what made you want to come to radio. I want to cut straight there now. Come on, tell me. Because you said it is something about you have to be passionate about, something which you want to do. Tell me what made you come to radio. Tell us about your journey. Quickly.
Started radio when I was in school, actually. Okay,
tell us about the tapes you made, the tapes.
So I was born and brought up in UK, and I was around 5 years old. I was listening to Louis Armstrong because everything my dad used to play. So from Louis Armstrong to Mere Sapnon Ki Rani, whatever it was, and they were playing on magnetic tapes, on vinyls, things like that. And I used to listen to the radio. Crazy. I mean, whatever it was, the BBC Top 100. And I would think, okay, if I wanted to listen to my favorite song again and again, how can I listen to it? Because it only plays once in that top 100, or I wouldn't know it would be coming up in the next 10 minutes or the next 5 minutes. But I still wanted to hear my favorite song. And if I didn't have the record, how do I hear it? So what I used to do, my dad got me a double tape recorder, and I used to record my favorite song once and then wait for the next top 100 the following Sunday and record that song after another 3 songs. So I literally recorded my favorite song 3-4 times in gaps of 3 songs. And today that is radio programming. You're actually increasing the frequency of a song so that it plays out more number of times. I used to create these mixtapes and invite everyone home and say, hey, guess what? Annie's Top 20 is playing, come on over. And I didn't want to rewind the tape because I felt you would lose the excitement there when the song was playing. And if you wanted to hear the same song again. So it would play after 4 songs. And then the next 4 hit songs would play. And then again, that top song would play. And that today in radio programming, you're actually creating playlists where you are playing the frequency of top songs that more often when you are creating your programming list of or categories of music. So unconsciously or unconditionally, I was actually doing radio programming when I was 5-6 years. I mean, because I love music. I mean, whatever, give me any genre of music, whether it was Western classical, whether it was Indian, whether it was I just wanted to hear it. And I would be fascinated with the technology that was available, whether it was playing it on 45 RPM or your different records, your different types of vinyl that you used to get. It was unbelievable. And I think, if ever any of you get a chance, apart from those of you who are in All India Radio. So when we came back to India, I started with All India Radio. And because that was the only radio station, FM only started in 1998. No, 1998. It was Radio Cities was the first FM radio station to launch. And that was in
That was 2000.
Lucknow, right? Lucknow.
2000. No, it was Radio City, Bangalore, which was the first.
It was Bangalore.
Bangalore.
Yeah.
And
you began your career in Bangalore.
I had helped the gentleman who was a programming head then. He was looking for people. So we were training in All India Radio, radio jocks. And he was asking like who are good, who would work well in the radio station. So it's interesting because they have, All India Radios probably has the greatest library ever of music. You will find
no one comes close to that library. Seriously.
Floyd or Metallica, those vinyls you will never be able to see today also. Elvis, name it. The Everly Brothers, oh gosh, if I get into it, I'll never stop. But that's the kind of repertoire of music that All India Radio has, and even in Hindi music. So whether it was Hindi, whether it was English, their repertoire of music was unbelievable.
Do you know in the 1950s, there was a broadcasting minister whose name is mentioned in the book also in Amin Sayani's chapter. When he came to power, he believed that Bollywood music, Hindi film music, Hindi songs will ruin the generation. So he destroyed 20,000 Hindi song records. 20,000 records were destroyed by that one man because it was his belief that Hindi songs will ruin the generation. So he destroyed 20,000 records of Hindi film music. Forever they have vanished, disappeared because of the one man's regressive thinking. His name is in the book. You must just read the book just for the guy's name, that this man destroyed, demolished, annihilated 20,000 records. Anita, can you believe what he did?
What hindsight. He saw Yo-Yo Honey Singh coming.
But
So coming to
But interestingly, Rakesh, I really need to say this. I don't know if it's live or edited, but still, I think you've been watching a lot of TV debates, man. The kind of words and the kind of body language that you have. Oh my God!
yeah, because I mean, come on, we have to
Of a
reflect.
certain
We
news
have
anchor
to.
who comes at
We
9
have to reflect.
every night.
We
You
have to
have you
reflect.
have that energy, man.
We have to reflect today's society. Simple as that. Okay, you want to
But
be up to date. You have to be up to times, up to the
but
date,
but
up to
jokes
date
apart,
with time.
jokes apart. Fali bhai said something about humility. It's often a point, that's not taken so seriously when we train students. Uh, Journalist or a radio presenter, it's so common. You just need to catch the pulse of the city, the pulse of the story. What is happening in the city that I live in? What's happening in Kolkata? What's happening in Mumbai? What's happening in Nama Bengaluru? What are people talking about? And what is the right way to present what they're talking about? I mean, there will be X, Y, Z opinions, and we just need to find out the right way to present it. And I keep saying this to all the students: do not worry about. Most people think that radio presenters have to be so articulate with their pronunciations, and that fear takes away the honesty of the content, if I may add. What they need to say, it goes when they are so conscious about how they're going to say. That's when I say, I started a blog a long time back when blogging was really cool, and I told people, forget the grammar. I mean, who's interested in the grammar? I need to see the fire in your words, the passion in your words. As long as what I'm saying is from the heart, and there's a lot of fire with what I believe in. Again, as I said, for any aspiring journalist here, in times of COVID, I'll give you a good example here. When the lockdown started, uh, jocks had to think like journalists. Sitting in your house, what are the things that you could do? Come up with your networking. I do the morning show. I think Kay can easily relate to this. We were simply thinking how we could help people. I mean, we know there's a virus. We know people are traumatized. People back 6 months back or 4 months back had a lot less information than what we have right now. So what could we do to change people's mood? So we had a yoga expert, we spoke about mental health, calling counselors, helping kids, helping parents, connected them, talking to COVID warriors, ones who came out from the hospitals, telling people, not to get into that stigma wala factor when it comes to patients. All of this and much more, we were thinking like journalists back then. Each one of us, each one of the radio presenters who was actually doing the show, was thinking like a radio presenter as to the story that's happening in their city, story that's happening in their locality. If people are helping out senior citizens, hey, that's a great story. That's positive. That's inspiring. Let's put that on air. Let that idea fuel into, 10 more minds, and great things can happen from there.
I asked Indira Rangarajan.
Mm-hmm.
Indira Rangarajan is the radio programming head of Radio Mirchi Bombay. And I asked her a question that she hires radio jockeys from across the country. She travels to all cities and hires jockeys for their various radio stations across India, Radio Mirchi. So I asked her that what is the primary thing that you're looking for in an RJ? When you go to Indore, when you go to Calcutta, when you go to Bangalore, when you go to Chennai and you hire, what are you looking for in the radio jockeys? She said the primary thing I'm looking for in a radio jockey when I go to the cities and I interview those students or those aspiring radio jockeys is how well do you know your city?
True that, 100%.
How well do you know your city? That's all I'm looking for. I'm not looking for your degrees and your curriculum and your gyan. I'm looking to know how well do you know the city where you're living, because that's a reflection of your power of observation. How much are you absorbing? How much are you observing? Absorbing is internal, observing is external. That's all I'm looking for to begin with. And if that is interesting, then I go to your degrees and your language and your skills and your grammar and your accent or whatever they may be. Sonali, you want to add something to this, Sonali?
I think it's important that every person who intends to be a radio host or wants to be a radio host has to be a great storyteller.
I was about to say
across?
this.
And the value or the message at the end of that story should be clear, concise, and be able to get across to your audience. If you can't connect to your audience, so you don't need a fantastic voice to be a great radio jock. You need to be able to connect with your audience. If you can connect with them, you are there. And I know a lot of radio jocks who don't have a great voice. You don't have to have a deep voice or a fancy voice. You have to have a voice that will be able to connect to the person on the other side. That's important.
And yeah, with that, I
Anita,
really
Anita,
feel
that's so. Yeah, Sonali, that's so right. Most people think, oh, I need to have a strong back
Yeah, that's
when I hit that
the,
mic.
you have to break that myth there.
You can fake that for, let's say, 2 months, 3 months. At one point of time, people, just see through it, man. I mean, they say, this guy is all fake. That's not his own voice. That's not
this
the real
usually
identity.
happens in my class also, as you even said, कि this 2-3 mahine wala chakachon, when we are in a class, it's like said कि when like in a bank employee or maybe the other one, when you are hired for a very longer period of time. But as a radio presenter, you are showing your skills like every day. आपका एक दिन का खराब शो आपके आपके आपकी पूरी जिंदगी साथ चलता है. किसी लिसनर का खराब कमेंट आपका पूरा दिन बहुत बहुत कुछ खराब कर सकता है. So basically when you are like facing, and like as you said कि when a whole city is judging you, it's not easy to उनकी judgment को uplift कर पाना ये सब चीजें. But one thing I definitely would want to add is the genuinity of you are like आपकी आवाज की genuinity, आपके story telling का जो तरीका है, ये जो आपका बताने का तरीका है, जिस तरह से आप लोगों के साथ कम्युनिकेट करते हैं, क्योंकि फेक आपको एक अपनी पर्सनालिटी के अंदर वो सारी चीजें उतारनी पड़ती है. मतलब व्हेन यू आर, मैं कितने दिनों तक बन सकती हूँ, मैं अच्छी वैसे भी मतलब आप एक लिमिट तक ही बहुत अच्छा लोगों तक प्रेजेंट कर सकते हैं. बट व्हेन यू आर डूइंग रेगुलर शोज, आपको वो अच्छाई कहीं ना कहीं अपने अंदर भी उतारनी थी है, ताकि जब वो अपनी बात लोगों के सामने रखे तो वो उतनी ही जेन्युइन साउंड करे. अगर इफ आई एम डूइंग से, अब मतलब कहते हैं ना, बोलने वाला कुछ और करने वाला कुछ और, आई रियली फील कि रेडियो जॉकी के पर्सनालिटी के साथ वो नहीं जाता चाहिए और नहीं होना भी चाहिए. There are people who can fake and there are people who can do whatever they want. But I personally feel that genuinity, the humbleness, ये कुछ चीजें रेडियो जॉकी में होनी चाहिए. और साथ साथ ही मतलब ये बहुत ही अलग एक सिनेरियो होता है कि रेडियो मतलब रेडियो जॉकी, इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट. लाइक दो ऑल इंडिया रेडियो के अंदर जो रेडियो जॉकीज होते हैं, दे सेट द होल सॉन्ग का प्लेलिस्ट अपना ही बनाते हैं, स्क्रिप्टिंग वगैरह खुद ही करते हैं. इट्स जस्ट लाइक द वन मैन शो काइंड ऑफ सिनेरियो. बट रेडियो स्टेशन में इट्स नॉट जस्ट सिर्फ वही नहीं होते हैं, देयर इज होल टीम वर्किंग बिहाइंड देम. So whenever anybody wants to join radio station या कुछ एक internship भी करना है, तो it's not just कि आपको सिर्फ एक आवाज के थ्रू ही लोगों तक पहुंचना है. There are multiple jobs also there जो लोगों तक आप पहुंचाते हैं. रेडियो जॉकीज के साथ भी काम किया जाता है. और इसी वजह से जब भी स्टूडेंट्स के साथ कनेक्ट करते हैं तो कितने लोग आके बोलते हैं कि हमें बहुत अच्छा, मुझे बात करना बहुत अच्छा लगता है, तो मैं रेडियो जॉकी बन सकती हूँ. या अपने फ्रेंड्स में मैं इतनी बातें करती हूँ कि लोग कहते हैं तू तो रेडियो जॉकी बन जा. सो इट्स नॉट अबाउट कि बहुत बातें करना मतलब रेडियो जॉकी बनना, या मुझे बहुत सारा पता है तो रेडियो जॉकी बनना. सो रेडियो जॉकी इज अ डिफरेंट पर्सनालिटी होती है जो लोग बहुत कुछ बताती है, या मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि एक बहुत कुछ रिप्रेजेंट करती है. वो एक सिनेरियो को जब आप 2-3 घंटे रेडियो पे होते हैं, सो इवन व्हेन वी आर, हम माइक पे होते हैं तो हम नहीं हो जाते, हम कुछ और ही रहते हैं. जब हम लोग इतने सारे लोगों के साथ कनेक्ट करते हैं, हम इतने सारे मैसेजेस लेते हैं, जब मैसेजेस को पढ़ते हैं, सो हम भी वो नहीं होते. लाइक आई एम नॉट द लाइक द रूटीन सोनाली व्हिच आई एम लाइक सिटिंग एट होम एंड कुकिंग एंड डूइंग द डिफरेंट थिंग. मैं भी रेडियो पे होती हूँ तो मैं एक आरजे के तौर पे अपनी एक कहते हैं ना कि एक मेरा रियल सेल्फ को बताने की कोशिश करती हूँ. और वो सब एक जेन्युइन जब किया जाता है तो लोगों के साथ हम बहुत डीप लेवल पे कनेक्ट कर जाते हैं. क्योंकि जितने जेन्युइनली आप अपनी बातें कहते हैं, जितनी सच्चाई से आप अपनी कहने की कोशिश करते हैं, एक मतलब इतनी छोटे छोटे इंसिडेंसेस होते हैं कि I was standing at Andheri station and like going towards Churchgate, and there was a mute couple. वो है ना सिर्फ sign language के साथ बात कर रहे थे, and they were communicating so well. laughing and having fun कि मतलब भाई तो क्या तो हम बात करते समय भी इतना धमाल नहीं कर सकते जब बात कर रहे थे. And I literally shared the students on air कि like while coming to radio station मैंने 2 लोग ऐसे देखे कि बात ना करते कर पाना भी मतलब आवाज ही कम्युनिकेशन का जरिया नहीं होती है, बहुत तरह से बातें की जा सकती है. And आप बिलीव नहीं करोगे, मुझे मैसेजेस तो सही ब्लाइंड लोगों के कॉल आए, कितने सारे जो डिसेबल्स होते हैं उनके कॉल आए कि मतलब इतने लोग सुनते हैं और कनेक्ट करते हैं. When you communicate something which relate to them, we connect to them with the
You
kind
related
of
because
content जो
let me
हमारा
interrupt. It touched
Yeah.
people. Why did that story touch people? Because it touched you first. Because
Yes,
it touched you,
absolutely
it
right.
touched people. So that's what I'm telling you, that you don't have to make up anything when you're an RJ, an author or a director. You go for what touches you. आपको जो चीज
Yes,
छू
yes,
गई,
absolutely.
I'm telling you, there's going to be a million out there, more than a million, at least a half a billion who will connect, because हम अंदर से एक जैसे ही हैं सब.
Rakesh,
I want to quickly jump to Fali. Fali, we were talking about, Anita told us about the passionate, how her passion for music was the beginning of a journey to radio. Fali, what is your beginning to radio? Because I want all of you to talk about that one passion which brought you here. So now it's Fali's turn. Fali, because we have students with us, and I want the students to know about how different passions and different things led to radio. Everybody didn't have to have the same story. Everybody didn't have the same path. So I want everybody's path to be spoken about over here, so that these 14 students realize that even these 14 can all become RJs, because they all of them will have different paths. So Fali, what is your path? That one passion which you feel was subconsciously responsible for you being in radio one day?
Number one was that I loved music a lot. Okay. Music was my life growing up. And when I was about 14 or 15 years old, I saw an ad in the paper. All India Radio was looking for RJs. So I applied to it, and imagine my surprise, out of 250 people, I was one of the 5 people chosen. And immediately I became I became the youngest RJ in Mumbai, at least at the age of 16, full time, trained by Amin Sahani, no less. Huh? And then I was such a troublesome person, because I would say, let's play this music, let's go interview this, let's go that. That All India Radio passed, you have to be a graduate to get any RJ. But I was the first one who was there before the graduates. And it was amazing. I mean, I had a lot of people who were very intelligent, very kind, very smart, and they were open to ideas. That's the best thing. If you work in a radio station that is open to ideas, that is how you will grow. It's not only you.
That's a very good tip to judge your boss, the boss you're going to be working for, or the company you're going to be working for, because see, companies are represented by people. So
exactly.
You judge a company from the person you meet, the person who's interviewing you, the person you're going to be interacting with. That's a good way to judge that person. I mean,
I'll give you an amazing example. Okay, Rolling Stones came to India, and I said, let's try and get an interview. And they said, you're never going to get it. But I said, give me the equipment. And we were able to do it. I actually went those guys, and I got them to sign my stuff and everything. And they were amazed that All India Radio had showed up outside, and they were very happy to talk to us, And nobody else had bothered with it. But I went for the concert, and I waited outside the concert. My friend in the music company said they're going to be coming out through this entrance, and then they're going to go to Not Just Jazz by the Bay. And I was polite. I didn't go and bother them. I said, I loved your music. I'm from All India Radio. When you have time, if you could talk to me. And I was maybe 19 years old, 20 years old. And they were like jumping with joy. This 19-year-old is coming and saying, and it was amazing meeting them.
I think so. I would say
unbelievable.
that
you actually met the Rolling Stones?
Yeah, I've got their autograph with me.
Oh my God! Are you serious?
And let me add to that. When I joined All India Radio, my mission was to make sure that every international artist that came to India, I got their interview, and till date, I have been able to get all of their interviews. So the Scorpions, your Rolling Stones, Sting, Bryan Adams,
Michael Learns to Rock, Boyzone,
really Boyzone,
Sting, they all had come.
Alanis
Enrique had come down. We got his interview. I got his interview.
Elton John, Westlife,
Is this
Joe
George Michael in the list?
Satriani,
Is George Michael on
Iron
the list?
Maiden.
No, George Michael never came to India.
George Michael never came.
So what I got from what Fali said was that it was his passion, not for music. It was his passion for interviews. It was his passion to hear stories. It was his passion to get a story out of somebody that got him that recognition, that first job. Not music. Music was the path. I think it is his passion to hear stories, to share stories.
But most important, Rakesh, that if you want to hear someone's story, do your homework and know their background. Don't just go and interview someone without knowing anything. It's very, very important. And also, all the people you're going to interview, if they have some notable stature or whatever, they're not just, you can't pick up phone and say, hello, hey, come on now, let's go on the radio. No, you have to talk to them, say, sir, when are you free? What is your time? Record with them accordingly. I mean, I planned out interviews which took me 6 months, but I got the interview, like with big names and things like that. And it worked out well. I mean, when Madonna came to India, she didn't speak to anybody in India at all. She had come on a holiday. But I had spoken to a manager 8 months before I got an interview with her. Imagine that.
When I wrote the book on directors, it took me 6 months to meet Farah Khan. It took me 3 years to get Subhash Ghai's interview. It took me 5 years to get Shyam Benegal's interview. It took me more than 1 year to get Vishal Bhardwaj's interview. It took me more than 1.5 years to get Mahesh Bhatt's interview. Patience, brother, patience, sister, patience.
I think you have to break the myth here that, okay, radio jocks are famous, celebrity, great fun, really cool. You got to go back and listen and actually experience what it takes. There's a lot of research that goes on. You're working non-stop. You are recording. You are doing your own PR. You are doing everything. You are integrating clients. You are integrating ideas. You are integrating events. There is so much that goes on behind the scene that it's unbelievable. So whoever wants to get into radio, you have the passion for it. Be ready to work hard.
Very hard, very, very hard. I won't say hard. I'm telling you again, very, very hard.
If you're a person who is looking for a 9-to-5 job, I think you can look somewhere else, because this is not 9 to 5. Radio, you're constantly thinking, you are inventing, you're innovating, you're constantly on the go to think about things of how would I do it this way? What am I going to do? And you are available to your radio set, to your mic all the time. So
absolutely. Rakesh, I just like to say something. I believe most of the students are here from Bengaluru, and you know K very well, right? You heard his show. I'd like to mention something about K here. Just in continuation with what Sonali had said, you got to be genuine, just the way you are. It's like when you start cooking something, now you start worrying about how your food's going to look, how your dish is going to look, or how are you going to serve. But you forget the most basic thing, that's a salt. खाने में नमक अगर ज़्यादा भी हो जाए तो फिर गड़बड़ हो जाता है, कम हो जाता है तो गड़बड़ हो जाता है. It's the right balance.
So, now, the salt is the sincerity.
Yeah,
sincerity is salt.
When I met, so I had spoken to K on phone, I think for 6 months, K, if I'm not mistaken. And I'd gone to Bengaluru, on a surprise visit. So I'd gotten rasgullas from the city, and I wanted to meet the entire team in Bengaluru. And that's K for you. I walk in, I still remember the day, and everyone's busy working. And K comes in, the reception is like, hey, hi, this is Arvind from Kolkata. We spoke over the phone. Hey, Arvind, what's up? And he goes on the floor. He's like, everyone, this is RJ Arvind from Kolkata. He does a show. Great, he's got rasgullas for all of us. Now, that little thing, it tells you when you see his profile, when you see his guest, or when you see the warmth with which the kind of people's person that he is, he's not faking it. That's what he is. That's what he does. He predominantly welcomes everyone. He gives you that 5 minutes, but he will invest, those 5 minutes in you. I'll just make one point in continuation to Fali. I loved his point about doing this.
I just want to say I paid Arvind to say that. Thanks, Arvind. You get your I'll Google pay you.
Fali said something.
It's the very rasgulla that did it.
100%. I'm doing it only for rasgullas. Yeah, I remember this incident that you referred to very vividly. So yeah.
Fali said something nice about researching. As a radio presenter, you will get, let's say, someone like Rakesh. You got to take his interview. Would you like to do his interview without even reading his book? I think that's pretty unfair. you need to read the book. Don't just read the reviews on Google or find out from your friends, yaar ye kitab kaisi hai, ye movie kaisi hai. See a movie yourself, have your own opinions, you'll have your own thoughts, good or bad. You may like it, you may dislike it, but that brings your personality out, not something that you heard outside. So there's no faking there. I mean, that's the whole point. I just like to just add one thing. Anita and me, we have one thing in common. We grew up with music, and right now, for the last 9 years, I've been doing a radio show predominantly playing retro music, retro Hindi Bollywood music. So you ask me anything about 1970s and 60s, I may not answer anything about geography or history, but I'll tell you who's a lyricist, who's a singer, who's a music composer. That's a passion that I have. Now, when I started doing this, Rakesh, interestingly, I grew up as a fan of George Michael, U2, and a bit of Kumar Sanu in the 90s. But then I never used to enjoy a Geeta Dutt or a Hemant Kumar predominantly. But when my job gave me the opportunity that I had to anchor a show, I could not have said no, to the night slot and say, no, I'm not going to do a retro show anymore. Imagine I'm talking today as a retro connoisseur, as someone who really has emerged as, probably the sound for retro music in Kolkata. My boss told me something really nice, and I'd like to share this with you. I told him, I listen to a lot of George Michael and U2. I'm not going to like Geeta Dutt's music. You know what he said? How do you know you're not going to like it if you've not heard it? Listen to the music and then make an opinion. Be it AC/DC, be it Scorpions, be it Kumar Sanu, be it Jatin Lalit, be it a Govinda song also, but listen to it and form an opinion. Don't just go out and say, I'm not going to do it. That one advice, Rakesh, made me a Kishore Kumar fan, made me a Geeta Dutt fan. As I moved into it,
made you a successful radio RJ, a successful radio presenter.
Yeah, I swear. Anytime I want to know anything about Bollywood, no, I don't look online. I call up Arvind. I'm not even joking. He's like an best encyclopedia for me. Like,
the Rasgullas did it.
What did you
Okay, Arvind. Arvind, tell us your beginning in radio quickly. Your beginning.
Okay,
what is that passion?
I frankly did not have any plans to be in media. I was a St. Xavier's grad. I finished my postgrads in marketing, and I was very, very keen on marketing, and the world of marketing and brands had always fascinated me. But deep inside, I think I was pretty fascinated with music. So I have no such story of wanting to be a radio presenter. But I'll tell you what, I was actually appearing for my ZAT exams, and I had a 3-month off, and private radio had launched back in Kolkata. And interestingly, to all the students, I did not say no to anchoring. I was pretty popular with jams and quiz sessions in the school and college circuits in Kolkata. So for a bit of pocket money, I was anchoring in Hartley's High School, I think, or Kamal. When one of the radio station heads really liked the way I was talking on stage, Rakesh, and he said, why don't you come down and try your luck with radio? I walk into a radio station, it was love at first sight, man. I loved the guy, walking in with that headphone, one look at the terrace and I was like, dude, I just need to do this even for 5 minutes. My mom needs to listen to me on radio. 5 minutes, that's all. I'm going to tell my mom I'm a complete mama's boy. It's like, Mom, I love you, and that's it. I'm going to finish my career from here and then get back. But you know what? That love affair is still 14 years strong and running. And that's what I keep saying. It's a passion. The day I lose a passion, I think I'll call it quits myself. But it's something so magical, Rakesh. Sit down, stare at the city. Before you do a show, before you write something, stand at the terrace and look at the city around you. Feel that energy. What you're going to write is going to make a difference. What you're going to talk is make a difference. And that's the energy that's going to carry you on the show or whatever you want to do.
I must mention over here, a few years back, Arvind told me that he wants to leave radio. So I said, great, you want to leave radio, and what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to leave radio and I'm going to do social service.
Oh, no. I said, I want to travel across the country. I want to see my country inside out.
Okay, travel across the country. So I said, great, you're going to travel across the country. But I also know that Arvind was also doing social service every weekend. And he was also doing a show on radio, which was almost like social service, where he was featuring the unsung heroes of the city. Okay. So I told him that, radio is the platform that we have got, radio, the mic and the station and the airwaves that belong to you, because you're a radio jockey at the moment. That, when you leave this and you go, wherever you go, whatever you do, you cannot get such a huge platform to do what you're doing. I know that ultimately you want to do social service, or you're going to settle down in some kind of an NGO or start your own NGO. So I just believe that the kind of shows you do, the kind of people you talk to, and the kind of people you bring on air, and the kind of empathetic stories you share. Listen to what I'm saying. not just stories, empathetic stories. The kind of empathetic stories that you have been sharing is nothing less than social service. And not just you, there are so many other RJs across the nation who do this, who do a similar job. I said, if you leave this platform and you go, you will continue to do social service, but you will be doing it in a very small manner, which is also very important because the size doesn't matter, right? But still, if you have the opportunity of doing social service, sharing empathetic stories, inspiring people through those empathetic stories to millions, I mean, isn't that better?
But you know what? To everyone watching this, yeah, I mean, look, I'm by nature I'm a positive guy, and I wanted to think about all the positive people in my city. And as I said, I look around stories. I talk to the watchman in my building. I know practically how much he earns, what are the problems that he has. That's just the kind of guy that I am. And everyone has a very different personality. I think what Rakesh is saying is have fun on radio. It's not just okay, positive, inspirational, motivational, good. All these emotions come in. But just play music, man. I mean, just playing a song heals on its own. You don't have to do anything. Just play that song. That guy driving in, every single presenter on this panel would relate to this. Anyone could have had a bad day, a fight with a wife, a breakup, loss of someone really special, pet vanishing. I don't know, all kinds of problems happen on this planet. So imagine you're playing that one song for 4 minutes or 3 minutes. That person forgets everything. Kuch nahi to yaar, chalo, let's listen to the song. I'm not saying the problem vanishes, but I'm just saying, for 3 minutes, you just, given some kind of a healing energy there.
So let's come to K.
Say a little thing just on this. K, what Arvind said is absolutely true, and that's the reason why a lot of us, the very first song that we play is usually, that kind. वो सिमरन का गाना ना मजानी life. So, that's what. Just वही बोलना था मुझे.
So let's come to K. K, tell us about your beginning in radio. What was that one thing which, in hindsight today, is something which you were passionate about, or
Yeah, weirdly, I think actually only probably the people on the panel have not heard my story. All the kids know my story, so. But on a side note, the way I started was honestly, it's just a matter of going with the flow. Like, I thought I was supposed to be in film, and I still think to a large extent maybe go back to it in some way. I finished my media degree from Bangalore. I went to Xavier's Mumbai, and I was studying in Xavier's Mumbai. And I just so happened to finish my degree, and I realized that, listen, this film is hard work. And I'm like, this is pretty tough. And I don't know if it's like for me. I definitely love it, but I don't know if it's something I want to wake up doing every day. It just so happened that at the end of that, the end of the course, someone that Arvind and Anita both know, Mr. Anil Machado, who's responsible for a lot of our careers, calls me up and says that, listen, there's one vacancy, you want to join? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, I just said yes. There's no reason to say yes. There's no reason to say what is the position on that. I was just like, listen, I'll try anything right now, because I'm not sure if I found it yet. And the reason that he called me up was also because I did an internship with them. I was in my second year of college for about 2 months, and kind of just kept in touch with them and things like that. So he called me up and he said that there's this thing available, you want to do it? I said sure, I'll try it out. And I came back to Bangalore, and I have been there ever since. Mind you, I did not join as a presenter. I joined as something that's a digital producer, which, as I like to joke, is one level above housekeeping staff. And it is basically the person who does social media uploads, pictures, videos, stuff like that. I used to do that stuff, and that was about it. And the weird thing is, in 6 months of being there, I was on air, and 6 or 5 months or something like that. And then, I started filling in for people. I started doing, score updates, as you very well know, of cricket matches and things like that. And then slowly moved up and moved in, and did the afternoon show. I just was on the bench for a long time, and then finally, when Radio 1 International took off, I'm on the morning, and I've been on the morning since.
Great. Tell me, you have been on radio how many years now?
It's coming up on 6 years now.
Okay.
I'm nowhere close to these guys, by the way. These
Doesn't
guys are
matter.
all
I
like,
mean, the
just
time,
like,
the amount of time you spend on radio doesn't matter. What matters is, your show. Tell me, in the 6 years, any moment on air that comes to your mind right now, instantly, which you
yeah.
feel is the reward. It is the award and the reward of being on radio. That one moment on air.
So I think I've told these kids the story, but I will say to you again. There was once a guy called up, and he was driving somewhere, and he wanted to commit suicide. And he's like, I just heard your voice, and I thought I'd call him. And and I'm sure every radio jockey has had this experience. Like, it's always happened. Like, I don't know, somehow. But he called me and said, I was thinking of committing suicide, and then I literally, believe it or not, it was 9 o'clock, super prime time, and I stopped the whole show, and I messaged my boss saying, like, listen, I'm off air. I'm just put the system on automation. I'm playing music, and I chatted with him for almost 3 hours. Eventually, I'm cutting a long story short, but we got help to him. He's absolutely fine. I'm not in touch with him, but that's because he keeps changing his phone numbers. And ever so often, once in a while, when I'm doing the show, he will. I'll get up. The phone line will ring. I'll pick up, and it's him. And he says that, hey, just wanted to check in and say that I'm doing okay. And that makes it all.
Wow,
worth it.
amazing, amazing. Anybody else has such a story? Please share it right now.
In the All India radio days, there was this lady who had lost her husband, and every evening after the news, she would call up on the line there. So generally, the line producers would pick up the phone, and then she said, "I want to talk to Anita." So fine, I said, "Okay, another listener, let's talk." And she said, I've lost my husband, but you know what? The music that you're playing and what you're saying is actually calmed me down. And I was actually thinking, how am I going to get through this? Do I commit suicide? What am I going to do? And the day my husband passed away, and then the next day I was thinking, what am I going to do with my life? I listened to your show, and that just kept me going. And the reason that you pick up the phone and you listen to me, you actually communicate with me and talk to me, is actually giving me that renewed hope that, you know what, there are things in life and I will move on.
Fali, you have any such moments on air?
Listen every day.
Fali, any such moments on air for you?
I've had many interesting moments. I think one of the most interesting ones was when I was interviewing a celebrity, and this is the most important thing, all of you people who want to get into being a radio jockey and do radio journalism and news and everything. Your first impression with the person is your last impression. You have to make a good impression with the person. Okay, number one. And
You're absolutely right. Wow,
Yeah.
that's 100% on the money.
And I was interviewing her. Rakesh will tell you who it was. She's a big name. And then she told me after the interview is over, I think I've got an amazing friend of mine who could probably come on your show and talk about the work he's doing. And that was Rakesh. And that's how I met Rakesh. So I was interviewing one celebrity. After the interview was over, I've never heard of Rakesh, honestly, I'm telling you. This was years ago. I'm talking about 8 years ago now almost. So 7 years now, we've known each other. So she just told me that this guy is doing amazing stuff. Why don't you meet him? And she told me about his bicycle diaries. That was the reason why she told me about him. And people don't know this much, but apart from being an author, he also helps. Rakesh helps a lot of underprivileged people. He's in fact given us the privilege, a lot of us radio jockeys, the privilege to go to the National Association for the Blind to read books for them. He's put me onto that, which he does as a project. Then he helped so many people. When during the lockdown, people don't know this, but during the lockdown, he was going around and distributing fruit and other things to people who didn't have anything. The migrant workers and all that. And at a risk of him, I told him, buddy, COVID is a very infectious disease. He said, people who don't have food, what will they do? He went out and he did it every day. Then that's what you call character, really.
Thank you. So I must say that when I was writing the book on radio jockeys, one blessing that came out of the book was I happened to meet blind students, because I wanted to know what do blind people hear, what do they hear, why do they hear, and what is on air which is nice for them, what is not on air which they want. And when I went to the school for the blind and I was speaking to the students, a young student got up and asked me, "What do you do? What is your name?" So I told him, "My name is so and so." He said, "What have you written?" So I said, "I've written a book on directors, on filmmakers." He said, we also watch movies. We don't see it, but we hear the dialogues. So we also like hearing Hindi music, Hindi films. So which directors have you written about?" So I named all the directors I have written about, all the top directors, Imtiaz Ali, Farah Khan, Zoya Akhtar, all the directors. So he said that you've written a book on directors. Why haven't you written a book for us? So I said, "What do you mean a book for y'all?" He said, "We are blind. Why haven't you written a book in Braille? Why haven't you given an audio book?" So, and it hit me at that time that I thought, oh, I've done a great job. I've written a book on on filmmakers. It's India's first book on filmmakers. But I'm such a moron. I'm such an idiot. I'm such a stupid person that I didn't even think that a print book is not necessarily the only book that needs to be there in the market. There should also be a book in Braille, and there should also be an audio book. So what I did was I gathered about 12 radio presenters that were known to me, including Anita, including Fali, and I asked them to dub one chapter each, because that my first volume of my book on directors had 12 chapters, 12 directors. And I knew that the blind people are the biggest consumers of radio. They are massive fans of radio because they have no other form of entertainment. They are very, very big listeners of radio. So I thought if our book on filmmakers has to be made into an audio book, the best people that they will connect with when those stories of the directors are being told is a radio jockey, because they are already connected to radio jockeys. They already know their voices. They already know their soul. So I thought it's best if I get this book read out, not by some celebs, like some film celebs or some radio jockeys, because these are the people that these guys are listening to, the blind.
Rakesh?
And I feel so proud that if I was not writing a book on radio, I would never have got the idea of making my book on directors into an audio book. And today my book on directors is available to 1 crore blind people for free.
Wow.
Thanks to RJs, because if I was not writing a book on RJs, I would not have gone to the school for the blind. If I had not gone to the school of the blind, I would not have thought, oh my God, I must write a book for them also. So see, everything is connected in life. So always go with your heart, because you don't know what is going to lead to what.
When you mentioned the blind, I suddenly thought of another lovely story, if I may.
Of course, you should.
That happened. So recently, I think it was where I was doing this campaign where we were, and this was about a year or so back. We were highlighting these local businesses. These local businesses that are homegrown, that are Bangalore grown, and things like that. So we were doing the same, and then there was this. I was talking to some other person, and then this lady hears it on the radio, and she calls into the station, not on the studio line, but on the on the main line, and she's like, "Listen, I want to get on the show." So they got, after the show was done, they sent my number and stuff like that. And this lady, very sweet lady, she's a person who recently got married, and she started a business whereby she makes handloom clothes. She weaves handlooms. She has people who weaves them from local artisans. And the best part is her business is in such a way that after the weaving is done, there is a tag that is stitched into the back of the whatever garment that is made, which is in Braille. And the idea of this is so that she can help blind people dress on a daily basis. So they have
Wow.
So the idea is, so they're independent on so many things, but dressing, they still have to ask someone, what color is this? And I can't see which color. Will this match this pant that I'm wearing, hypothetically, right? So that's something that was never there. So she was creating a line of clothing that did the same. So she was on the show and stuff like that. So just as an extension of that show, while she was on, I was like, listen, whoever feels that take a picture of something that where it's easily accessible for the blind. Now in Bangalore, there are footpaths with Braille kind of on it to notify people where they're walking. There's the simple thing in the elevator, right, with the perforated kind of this thing, so that you can feel which floor you're now pressing. or simple thing on the dial pad of a phone, you'll see the dot there. So I said, if you have something like that, click a picture of it, WhatsApp it to me. I got many messages, but I got one from this guy who said that, oh, the lift in my college is this thing. I was like, great. So why aren't you sending me a picture of it? He's like, because I can't see. And I said, oh, okay. So, and I was supposed to give out like a lining, I think about 2,000 or 3,000 bucks of clothing to this. So I called him up and I said that she's right here. And we're giving this to you because this clothing would, I mean, more than anybody else would benefit you of more people.
Absolutely.
So we gave it to him. And he's like, great, how can I collect it? Can I come over and things like that? I said, you know what? No, where do you live? He lived extremely far away. So I said, let's meet in the middle. Okay. And let's meet at her boutique and we'll hand you the clothes there. And she said, she was like very happy about this idea and he was too. And initially, I mean, we thought that the person that I texted, this person's name was Kiran. Now, Kiran is a very unisex name, right? And this person sounded like a woman, right? And she majorly makes stuff for women. And this person showed up and it wasn't a woman, it was a guy. It was a college going guy. And she was extremely disappointed. And she was like, the lady who makes, her name is Nupur. She was making the clothing line. She was like, okay, but I don't make clothes for guys and stuff like that. And this is the beautiful thing that happened after that. So she's like, I have some things, but not such a wide variety for guys. So the guy comes up, Kiran comes up and he's like touching the clothes and stuff like that. And then he touches the label. He's like, oh, this is mustard yellow. And this is a coat, size 42. It's mustard yellow. And he's holding the coat. And she looks at me and tears are falling down her face. Wow. And she was so happy. And from that day onwards, she decided that, you know what, I don't know why I haven't made clothes for men also. So she started making clothes for men, but that day she just couldn't stop bawling. And it was such a heartfelt thing. And listen, a radio stops at click a picture, send it to me, you get a gift. But this whole thing of going this little extra mile, you know what I mean? Whether it's replying to someone like Anita said, or Fali has been saying, or anyone in fact has been saying, going the extra mile is where you get the real-time satisfaction of why you, and the reminder of why you do these things on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Very well said. I think now we can open the discussion for students to ask questions. And I think whatever question is asked, I think everybody should try and give some opinion about that question being asked. All of you.
I think just quickly adding to K, it's absolutely, it should be always on top of mind. Whenever you have a guest who comes on your show, from beginning to end, they should have an experience. And when they leave, they will always remember you and remind and, talk about it. I always make sure that the experience when they leave the radio station, this is the place that they want to come back to. No other place.
And I'll tell you, I mean, I've been to many radio stations, for my dad, for myself, even to interview these people. I think the simplest actions are the deepest. For example, even something as simple as, the RJ asking you for a glass of water. Will you drink something? Will you have a coffee? I think that itself is so, you just feel so comfortable and you just feel so welcome. I mean, you don't have to be offered some big gift and some chocolates and all. Just asking for water and a coffee or a tea, you just immediately relax. I've come from far, I've taken an hour and a half to reach here, and this person cares enough to share her beverage. I'm telling that even these small things, which we think are very small, are really big things for a guest like me also.
Which is why, Rakesh, we've all done interviews, over the years, and I keep telling this to the students all the time. It's a constant practice, you are comfortable in a studio. The person coming to your studio is thinking,
I'm traveling 1.5 hours to reach there.
Now you may be comfortable with your column that you write in a newspaper, but the person you're doing an interview is constantly worried about, am I going to say something wrong? So you need to get that person to be very comfortable with you. I agree with Anita. He needs to go back. I always tell this to all my guests. If you go back from my studios telling me that you were nervous and this did not work out, then that would be my failure. It's never happened in 14 years. Until the time I leave radio, that's not going to happen. The whole point is getting the person to be very, very comfortable with you and being extremely honest and cordial. The one thing I like to add for all the students here it's a little exercise. I guess all of you could do it in your house. Always ask open-ended questions. It's the best way to train your mind. You cannot ask a simple question. So the example, ask questions that cannot be answered in yes or no. Then you get the story. Then you get a conversation going. So imagine you're out on a date. You don't ask the guy, right? Oh, do you like me? Yes. No. Why do you like me is the story. So try and take out maybe a little cell phone or a little pen or anything that you grab, a book, and ask 50 questions about that book that cannot be answered in a yes or no. These are the little exercises with which you train your mind to ask the right questions. So when you have a guest in your studios, it could be a celeb like Fali bhai said, a Madonna or a Rolling Stones. You don't want to ask them, sir, India ke aapko acha laga? Nahin. He wants to ask them, what do you like about India? Now that's the story. That's the story that people want to listen to. So, get these questions right. And it starts with the little exercises in your everyday life. When you meet and you interact with people, that's the best practice one can get. You don't need a radio studio to do this. And even if you don't get into radio or media, this still helps in judging and, having a conversation with people.
So let's hear from everybody, all the RJs. How do you, what are the good questions to, how do you frame your questions? Vaishali, very quickly. What's the best way to frame questions or to make your guest comfortable?
The first thing that I feel is that we try to get to know them, make them feel comfortable, and whatever we have read about them, something that they really loved or the current project that they are working on, because that's something they are consumed with. So, talking about their current project, whatever they've come to speak about, is the best thing to start going, I feel.
Okay,
Sonali,
Sonali,
then you can take it ahead, yeah.
Sonali, you?
Yeah. I have done like a lot of interviews, and the people जिनके भी मैंने interview किए हैं, they're really happy, and like they still text me कि आप interview करते हो तो आ जाते हैं.
Why are they happy? How do you begin with? What is your normal method?
Yeah, that's what I'm about to come. The one thing, like everything, research and comfort, ये तो है ही, but I personally feel कि जितना भी आप पूछने वाले हैं वो अपने दिमाग में पहले से पूरा उसका theory prepare कर ले, so that whenever you are talking to that person वो eye contact बना रहे, so that आप ऐसे नीचे देख के ऊपर सवाल पूछिए, नीचे देख के ऊपर
very well said. Very eye contact is so important.
Because that really disconnects the conversation, because it will वो casual behavior है या वो एक connectivity खत्म हो जाती है when I'm reading the question, or whether there's a Wikipedia जो side computer पे खुला हुआ and I'm reading, अच्छा 94 में Filmfare Award मिला था क्या, oh wow, no, I have to have that the structure in my mind ready, ताकि वो जब कुछ पूछे तो I have to answer the counter thing. और वो चीज I really feel कि that eye contact and the connectivity is very important during the whole interview process, so that कि वो इंसान जो है वो समझ पाए कि okay, I have done so many interviews when I'm talking to that celebrity singer, and they say, अच्छा आपको ये गाना पता है, oh wow, हमें तो लगता था कि ये गाना कहीं खो गया है, and then you feel the सामने वाला, and then they come for half an hour and they're sitting there for an hour, because they feel कि नहीं इनको पता है कि what I am doing. So I feel that eye contact and the research obviously is very important. Yeah.
Okay, Fali, you want to add something to this? I think you already spoken, Fali. Yeah. But you want to add something?
I'm going to add the most important thing. What not to ask? Don't ask personal questions. Like if it's in the news, like I got a celebrity, it came in the news, the celebrity was having an affair with somebody else. So don't ask, Arey bhai, is it really true that you are having an affair? Never. I've been for press conferences where, people get a chance to interview the celebrity one by one for a launch or something. And I've seen veteran journalists go across and upset the star by asking, Arey, we heard that you were busted for dope, or you're having an affair with this or doing this. Tell us now, why is it true? Or what about the tweet about you? Never. Number one, when the person is giving you their time, respect their time, respect their work. If the person has whatever done something wrong, yes, but no need to bring that up. Bring up the positive. Any interview you do for radio always has to be positive. You can never have any negative things. Even, for example, if we do a special program on COVID, we have to talk about the positivity of it. We have to talk about so many people who are doing great work, whoever it is, We have to look at the person who has overcome COVID and is now looking positive at it. We don't have to say, Ari, it's such a tragedy that so many people did this, government are not doing this, this. No, whatever people are doing, be positive about it. That is the most important thing in radio. And in life also, buddy. Really.
Some time back, I had a thought to talk about something. I completely forgot who had somebody had mentioned about being honest with your guest, or being honest on radio, or being honest in life in general. Integrity. And I remember when I interviewed Mr. Govind Nilani for my book. I had never written a book before. It was my first book I was writing. I had never written a book on directors before, and I had never written a book in my life. And after the book was ready, and I went and gifted him a copy of the book, I asked him that, Mr. Nilani, what made you give me your interview? You are such an experienced and profound filmmaker, and I was somebody who was writing my first book. What made you say yes to me? He said two things because of which I gave you an interview. Number one, when you would tell me that I'm going to call you at 2 o'clock tomorrow, you would call me at sharp 2 tomorrow. If you told me you're going to call me at 5:30 after 3 days, incannonly at 5:30 after 3 days, you would call me. How did you do it? I said, sir, I would set an alarm on my phone. Second thing, he said, the second reason I gave you the interview was, so he said, I respected you because you respected my time. I had given you time 5:30 after 3 days, and you remembered 5:30 sharp used to call me. Simple, I use an alarm on my phone. What else is the smartphone for? Number two, he told me was, you are honest to me. So I said, in what capacity was I honest? He said, when you came to me for the interview, the very first thing you told me, you said you have never written a book in your life. You have never written a book on directors, and you have never written a book in your life, but you know how this book is to be written. And I said, this is the man I'm going to go with. He's honest to me, and he's confident about something he's doing, even though he's never done it in his life before. And that's why I gave you my interview. So this is a very big lesson for any profession.
Rakesh,
you respect the time of others, your guest, and you be honest. If you don't know something, say it. Say, I don't know this. Please explain to me. Don't try and hide behind being pretentious. Go, I know directors, I know filmmakers. Oh, I know how to write a book. No, I said, I don't know how to write a book, but I know how to write this one.
Rakesh, it's an interesting point that you mentioned. For anyone doing a special interview with a celeb, you could have your jittery nerves, playing right before the interview. It happens to all of us. Trust me. The one thing that I would also like to add is, in fact, two things, is try and ask questions that have not been asked before. And, going in line with what Falibai said, something positive, but something really different. That's what stands out in your interview. For instance, when I was doing the interview with Saurabh Ganguly, I did not want to ask him about, this t-shirt incident in NatWest and all the little things. I was asking him, what's the series that you're watching on Netflix right now? I mean, do you beat up Sana's boyfriend? I mean, those are the kind of questions that came to my mind, and it was so fun. I met Rakesh, I remember, I did not ask him a single question about his dad and the recordings. I simply asked him, जब पेरेंट टीचर्स मीटिंग होता था तो फिर कोई टीचर आपको बोलता था कि मैं मैथ्स में पास करा दूंगी, आपके फादर से मिला दीजिए. And Rakesh smiled. I still remember. He's like, that's not a question that anyone's ever asked me before. So the point is, gauge your guest well. He could be a celeb, he could be an everyday person. Fali is absolutely right. Give it, that respect for the time that they're giving you. It could be a superstar. It could be just a normal, guest that you have in the studios. But learn to be flexible with the questions that you have. While Sonali and Vaishali mentioned about having a set of questions in your mind, but there always has to be a plan B, and plan B is best understood. You have multiple thoughts running in your head as you're doing the interview. You have to be witty enough to have the right question at the right time. So if you see that something's not working, you need to be flexible enough to change your approach to the interview to get the best out of the guest.
But you can do that only if you're a good listener. If you're listening to your guest.
Yeah. Now to add to Arvind's interviewing skills, keeping in time is really important. If you know you have a show and you are going to speak 4 times in that show, and you only have 2 minutes or 3 minutes to be able to, so make sure that you plan your questions according to that time frame. You don't want to take a 1-hour interview and then your guest comes and says that you only played 4 minutes of that 1-hour interview. What did you play out? The most important thing is know the time. when your guest is in studio, explain to them that, okay, this is a 3-minute link. We will be able to talk for about 3 minutes. So let's just put our thoughts together on how we wanted it. So the more comfortable you make your guest, they will automatically come up with those stories of that you want to narrate or talk about. And giving them that time frame, they understand how much they have to say. Otherwise, they can go on a tangent and they can just ramble about things which you just don't want to hear.
Okay, now we have to take the students' question because we have to wrap up in the next 5 minutes. A question to everybody, and everybody needs to answer this. Yeah, we'll begin with Fali. A question to everyone: what's the most important part of a link? Some links may be mentioned, just mentions. So how can a jock keep a listener hooked even for just a mention? Some jocks enjoy working on the fly and going in unprepared and still do a great job. What are your thoughts on that, Fali?
So most important thing is that if you're playing some sort of music, okay? So suppose now the show I do in the night is a retro show where I'm playing all the classics, Beatles, U2, Pink Floyd, that sort of stuff, right? You need to have a flow with it, with a link. Suppose I played a song of Beatles. Then my next link could be, do you know that the Beatles came to India and they were inspired by this song? And at the same time, we had the Rolling Stones who also came to India and they did this song as a thing to the Beatles, you know? So you must always have a link. Link means that whatever your music you're playing or whatever you're talking, in the next part of it, it should continue. It should not be 1 minute I'm talking about Rolling Stones. Next link is Bappy Larry. Oh, he's the greatest. You know, it can't work like that. You need to have a link of whatever show you're doing. And you need to know what your format is. If I'm doing a dance show, I cannot play in the middle of a dance show, you know, Pink Floyd, stuff like that, like heavy metal and all. It's not dance music. So a link means you need to know what your link, a music is, you need to know what your topic is, you know. And I think every RJ here, whoever's an RJ, knows that when they go in for a show, the show has a format. And somebody told me this, you know, a very famous presenter from BBC, I'd interviewed him, and he had worked with BBC many years. Then he was replaced by a younger person, you know, and I'd interviewed him and he had done many great interviews. So I asked him about that, you know, I said, after the interview was over, that, you know, that this new person has come instead of you now, and, you know, like they have a new format and all. So he said, remember, the most important thing is when you are a RJ, presenter or TV presenter, anything, you are part of the format. Today I can be there, tomorrow I can leave, but the format has to continue. It's like James Bond. Today there's Daniel Craig, tomorrow there'll be a new James Bond, but the format will continue. It goes on. It has to continue, you see. That is the most important thing in whatever you do. So no, never think you're indispensable. You know, tomorrow, I'm in my, you know, late 30s. Tomorrow I'll get someone who's a 20-year-old saying, "Arey, I'll play a Pink Floyd," you know, like that. It can happen. And it depends on you, what you feel. As long as you feel that this is right for me and I want to give it my honest best, you will keep doing it. You know, look at Amin Sani ji. At 80 plus, he's doing shows still. You know, recording once in a while, doing show specials and all that. Then he loves it. He's doing it from the heart. That's all I have to say.
So, Anita, tell us about the link. The question about the link. What's really important for a link?
The question is in the chat. If anybody wants to read it, the question is in the chat.
Okay. So when you're talking about a link, you have to understand this is the content that you're going to deliver in a specific set of seconds. So whoever is delivering it from end to end, that link has to be able to connect to your next link, to the music, and what every hour of a show is designed accordingly. So what is it that you have to give out in that link? You have to be completely alert and on top of it, because you can't afford to make a mistake. So when I say a mistake, if it is a client link, for example, I have to be perfect on what I'm saying across the board. If it was a link which was talking about music, I need to know who the lyricist is, or the music composer, or the album name. I need to know my content completely. end to end. It's very important. And to be able to deliver that in the specific time that has been given to me.
Okay,
So,
Shashank,
Arvind,
has a question. It's a pretty good one. RJK has told us multiple times about building a brand. Arvind sir has talked about his interest in marketing. I actually have a postgraduate degree in that. Okay, how important is building a brand? So I'll keep this very simple, Shashank. If you go to a South Indian restaurant, you get idlis and dosas, right? You don't get pizzas in that restaurant. So try not to make a pizza in a South Indian restaurant. If you're serving idlis, make sure that you're serving the best goddamn idlis and dosas ever. And people will remember you for that. So you don't walk into an Adyar Bhavan and you expect to be served biryani there. No, that's not the place for that. So when you're building a brand, you got to be very true to your core strength areas. Like for me, it's sports, it's music, it's positivity, it's fitness. I love cycling. I'm an environmentalist. So when I talk about climate change, there is a lot of passion in it. There's a lot of passion about it. I love reading, so I can sit and talk to you about books. But if I don't, then if I try to mix up everything, in one platter, that's when the listener, I think, gets confused. I think good brands are built when you simply communicate on your strengths. So if you look at the best brands around, you see the actor or you see the brand, you relate to a certain feeling and a certain emotion. So when you listen to a radio presenter, there has to be this certain adjective that you put. So for instance, for K, it would be, oh, positive, warm, and lovely guy. For Vaishali, it could be, oh, that sweet little girl, sweet girl next door who loves music. For Sonali, it could, for Fali, oh, what interviews this guy takes, man. He's probably the best guy when it comes to, doing all these interviews. For Rakesh, it's like, oh, he can give competition to Shashi Tharoor for all the choice of English words that he does. Looking there. So each one of us, we have our own, individual brands. All that I want to tell you in a very simple line is do not serve pizzas in a South Indian outlet. If I'm going to a South Indian outlet, I expect dosas and idlis. Just make sure that you serve the best dosas and idlis. The point is, don't try to be everything. Just try to be who you are. But within that spectrum, try to be the best of who you are.
Yeah.
Okay, now the questions are coming. Sure,
I've got one question that actually came in, and this person doesn't want me to say their name out loud, so I will just refrain from that. Anybody feel free to take this question. In an everyday aspect, can there be some different kinds of weaknesses that could happen in a radio station or for an RJ? Weaknesses in the sense that some things are not in our hands, and how do we tackle the same? Anybody feel free to take this.
So sometimes when you do live call-ins, okay, you get people who have their own opinion and it's really bad opinions. I've had, that's why now when we do live call-ins or anything, we screen the people before and we talk to them before a little bit to know what their thing is, before putting them on air. But you get a lot of people sometimes, which is out of your control. They ask for a song or whatever, but they also have their own opinion and they make it embarrassing for you. Remember, I'll give you the best example. Some time ago, I'd done an interview. I was sent to do an interview with a minister. And I'm not going to say who this minister is. So the minister started on the interview bashing, of course, the other party and saying, oh, this, they're not done this. And then I said, so what music do you listen to? So he's saying, we have no time to listen to music. We are only saving the country. And then at the end of it, when I went back to meet my producer and we said, we have this interview, out of the 45 minutes he spoke, we could use only 3 minutes in which he was saying, I want to volunteer radio, thank you, how are you, this. And he spoke very nicely about one other prime minister and that was it. So out of the 45 minutes, he just went bashing about what is wrong with the country. So I said that was like the worst interview I ever had because it was the most negative interview. But in spite of questions, like that.
There are more questions. Who would like to answer the questions? Please volunteer.
Did anybody else want to take this question that was sent to me? Anybody else? Sonali,
I like to add one beautiful incident.
Yeah, sure.
This happened with A.R. Rahman in Kolkata. We were supposed to do an interview with him. And before the interview, as it happens, we're checking the recorder. We had just about 5 or 10 minutes of, his time. And we had made promos saying that A.R. Rahman is in Kolkata. So piche ka jo voice over tha, wo aise ja raha tha. So we needed Rahman to be very energetic. But by nature, he's the kind of person who will say, hi, Kolkata, I'm coming. So that's just the kind of energy that he has. When we finished the interview, because I grew up in a Tamil household, so I had listened to Roja and Alaipaide and all these songs, way before. I was like, that interview was the only interview, but I was a little, I'm meeting A.R. Rahman, that's it. So once I finished the interview, in my excitement, in the last 14 years, this is one incident that's one of my favorites. I come back all excited, tell my boss, we got Rahman's interview. And this is like second to none. And I play the audio has not been recorded.
Oh my God. Hell.
My boss, and then so there's a lot riding on it. And trust me on this, there's sponsors ready on board and everything else. And my boss simply looks at me and he says, there's no audio. I was like, okay, so jahan par wo earphone lagna tha, I had, put the microphone there. And in my excitement, I had kind of interchanged that. 9:30 in the night, I drive back to Hyatt Regency and I pushed in all my PR. And that's where the PR comes in very handy. I pushed in all my PR. I stood in the lift. I saw endless people going up and down. And this happened in 2009 or 10. I stood outside A.R. Rahman's building because his secretary told me that he's going to finish dinner and he's going to come back to his room to meet his wife. And they're having dinner with the team outside. I just stopped him at the lobby and I spoke to him in Tamil. Can you beat that? I was like, sir, you're from Chennai and I'm a Tamilian jock in Calcutta. I could lose my job if I don't get this interview, sir. And I just happened to, make a small mess up here. That was so honest. I just did not want to tell him, sir, I know I'm disturbing you, post your dinner, but I'll take 5 minutes of your time. That's all. He gave me 15 minutes. My heart was racing fast. And I was so happy that I was born into a Tamil household that day. Trust me on this. I was very, very happy.
Wow. What a story.
What a story!
The cherry factor came in handy. I came back, I heard the audio 50 times before I could call my boss and I said, look, we got the audio, we got the promo, we got the interview.
There are more questions, Anita. There are more questions here.
Can I add one thing here?
Yeah.
This has happened with me also because I went to interview Sanjay Mishra. He was a bit reluctant. He said, "Aap mere ghar aake interview karke jao." So I went to his place at Warsaw, and because obviously he's such a brilliant actor, उन्होंने पूरा इंटरव्यू दिया, मैंने रिकॉर्डर पास में रखा और बिकॉज ऑफ माय हैबिट लाइक मैंने एक साथ में मेरा भी रिकॉर्डर साथ में रखा एंड बिकॉज आई वाज सो एक्साइटेड मैं जो हमारे AIR का रिकॉर्डर का बटन प्रेस करना भूल गई एंड वो मैंने मेरा जो रिकॉर्डर था वो लेकिन मैंने ठीक से ऑन करके रखा हुआ था सो आई जस्ट व्हेन आई सबमिटेड एवरीथिंग टू AIR देन दे कॉल मी अप एंड सेड कि सोनाली इट्स जस्ट 5 मिनट्स का इंटरव्यू 45 मिनट्स का नहीं है इसमें एंड इट वाज लाइक ओ माय गॉड मेरा बैकअप ठीक से हुआ है कि नहीं बैकअप तो बहुत जरूरी है बैकअप होना चाहिए एंड फॉर्चुनेटली बैकअप इंटरव्यू वाज देयर क्योंकि मैंने मेरा रिकॉर्डर भी रखा था सो समटाइम्स योर बैकअप इंस्ट्रूमेंट ड्यूरिंग एन इंटरव्यू प्लेज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल बिकॉज कब कौन सा इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इंस्ट्रूमेंट गड़बड़ कर जाए यू नेवर नो so backup is also
the three books
very important.
The 3 books I've written are all biographical and they're all eminent people and I never went for any interview without a backup. I always had 2 recorders, one a dictaphone and then my phone. My iPhone, I would record everything. And only when I was sure that the dictaphone has got everything, only then I would go and delete the second file, the backup file. Okay, now we have more questions.
I just want to summarize what was just said. So for all the kids who are listening, when Arvind said, don't try and do multiple things and do one thing only and focus on your strengths, he's basically trying to say you have to stay true to yourself, if you want to build a brand of yourself, and you have to stay true to your core strengths. And from what Sonali, from what Arvind and all just said about the question that I just asked, for you guys to take away, it's also, like they said, important to have backups. It's important to understand that there are weaknesses, but you also have to roll with them in any way that you can, and you just kind of follow and do whatever comes, and it will make a path for itself. So don't focus too much on the weaknesses, focus on the way forward. I'm done being a teacher. You can go back to your questions.
I have a question. Yeah, say.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. There are challenges when the guest, knows that they have come for an interview and they are supposed to speak, but they are just not in the mood, and they are not giving you the kind of answers you want. And it has happened with radio jockeys that the celebrity, despite of the questions being asked, the answers they are giving are totally off. They are not what you're asking. So there have been RJs who've had to go back and record the questions according to the answers given. And Sonali knows what I'm talking about. Sonali?
Yes, yes.
So RJs have had to go back to the studio, yeah, and
Yeah.
record the question according to the answers of the guest.
Yeah,
That is a
that's a
pain,
very
believe
good,
me.
Yeah, yeah.
very true fact. And very
Yeah.
good that you shared it. That you have to change your question according
Yes,
to what they answered. Absolutely correct. Absolutely
Because
happens. Yeah.
yes,
yeah,
and
this is
the bigger
usually
the celebrity, the more the chances of this thing happening. हाँ Sonali, please continue.
yeah, matlab, this is more apt for the recording interview when we are doing recording. But in a live show, if this happens, so the radio jockey has to like, I don't know कितनी कसरत हो जाती है वो, कितनी ज़्यादा मशक्कत हो जाती है to handle the situation. But with the experience and with the like understanding, चीजें समझ भी जाती है और चीजों को आगे बढ़ाता भी आता है.
Okay, I have a question
And the
for
point is-
Anita. Anita
and the
Naidu, I have a
point
question
is-
for you.
Yeah.
What
Sorry,
are
the
the
point
takes?
is, Rakesh, just one last line. The point is, anything can go wrong. It's not just a recorder, the dictaphone, your excitement. You could have a power cut in the studios. There could be fire. There could be a tsunami. There could be an earthquake. Just take a deep breath, relax. That too shall pass. Don't take it too seriously, and keep your calm. That calm attitude of yours. You need to have it. You can't be flustered and anxious. That's all.
Very true, very true.
So Anita, somebody asked about podcasts. I mean, are podcasts going to get more popular, and is radio going to die?
No, I don't think podcasts are popular, but it's a different medium of communication.
What's different? What's different between radio and audio podcast?
Well, podcasts here, most of the podcasts, if you see, are based on the person's skill set or what they want to talk about or the information that they're going to give. It's not like a radio show where you are interacting 24/7 with your audience or with your listener and where you're playing out music. So it's a complete different feel altogether. I would say a podcast, a lot of podcasts are content related, as in which they are delivering that content with specifics to the subject of whatever they are talking about. Whereas in radio, you're not talking only about that subject. I mean, it depends on your radio station. What kind of a radio station? Are you retro? Are you a community radio station? Are you, whether it's like All India Radio where they reach out to the whole country. If it's an FM station, it's only reaching out to the city. Podcast reaches out across, to the world, you could say. So it depends on what it is. I don't think podcasts will interfere with the way radio is progressing.
Rakesh, you missed one question. Can I go back to that question?
Yeah, go back to all of them. All of them. We'll answer all of them.
One, I think you went to the question after that. Ashish asked, and feel free, anybody who wants to take this. My question goes to everybody. In the times where the whole nation is shut down, people are confused, scared, lost, when everyone is at home and there's anxiety on air, how does an RJ go from a normal day to something that people can listen to, get some facts, clear doubts, get a peaceful mind, or even just forget about the commotion outside and listen to some pure positive stream? How does an RJ kind of tackle that emotion going into the day with everything that's happening? Anyone, please.
I think Arvind already answered that, but yeah, we can have one more go at it.
No, I think all of us have answered it at some point during the show. It's most important to be positive. It as Rakesh will tell you, there's one fascinating story in his book where so many RJs have gone through so many hardships and back problems and things like that. But when they go and do their job, it's positive. They forget about it, and that's what it should be. It's like when you're going out there to be an RJ, you don't want to tell the entire world, "Arey, mera gari toot gaya abhi. Arey, this happened to me. My girlfriend ran away with my best friend." No, you have to be positive and say, "Hey, this is for him.
Fali is speaking from personal experience.
Yeah,
I think interesting.
No, it's never happened to me.
Interesting, ki Fali, I don't know, ask this question. So, even if you're an engineer or you do a 9-to-5 job, even then you cannot go and tell your boss ki boss COVID hai, main kaam nahi karna chahta, mera breakup hua hai, main kaam nahi karna chahta. It applies to all industries, and more so when you're accountable. For the world around. I mean, you could always be honest on air and, say that I'm not having a good day, but I intend to have a good day with some great music right now. So that's why to pep up myself, I'm going to play some great music. That's what I do.
I think the most important thing as an RJ, when you wake up in the morning, you got to look forward to heading to that studio and that show,
Most
and
important,
you feel the energy and the vibe. It's for any job for that matter. If when you wake up in the morning and you have the slightest inkling of saying, oh God, I don't want to go do this job, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Very true. There's just one thing I want to answer about doing shows on the fly. Someone wrote about it, right? How about some RJs who go unprepared and still do a great job?
Yes.
Am I audible? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah. I just want to say is that a radio jockey's main job is to be well read. RJ needs to be really well read, needs to know what are the things which are happening around. And also, like Fali said, that every hour or every show has a theme. So, according to the format of the show, you know the kind of songs they're going to play and what are the things happening around. So, you connect the things which are happening around and the song. And of course, like, like just for example, I'm just saying that, because of all the things that are happening around us now, we're getting to know about the NCB things and Bollywood and lots of things. So isko kis tarah se hum log connect kare? So we just need to, just connect that song on the fly. Kaise karte hain, main bol rahi hu. Because often, yes, I agree, we do shows on the fly. So we know the theme and theme of the, of the show, and we know what's happening. So when I play a song, I totally connect. कि यार just chill out. इसके बारे में ये सब होते रहेगा. इतना मत सोचो. Do this. So किसी तरह से format the song, the lyric of the song, the lyrics. These things can be connected very smoothly if you're well read and if you know what's happening and if you're knowledgeable about the music. So this is how you can do it on the fly. ये मेरा जवाब है.
Rakesh,
Arvind, we have a question for you to answer. Arvind, read the question from Shashank.
I just finished answering Shashank, but I think Sanchita just mentioned it's cool to have a Tamil jock in Kolkata. So I have to mention this. I'm going to break one more myth right now with my own personal experience. Language is no barrier if you have to do a good radio show. I started off playing, Phil Collins with Power FM, the first station that I started working with, U2 and a lot of Pink Floyd, George Michael and all of these songs. When I shifted radio stations back then, Rakesh, I took a very conscious decision after 3 years that I'm going to start talking in Bangla. The reason was my Hindi and English were pretty much, sound and in control. Not that my Bangla was bad, but the fact is I really wanted to stand out from the crowd. You spoke about building a brand. This is what I did on the show for 6 months. Every night, I said, I'm going to talk in Bangla. I am a South Indian guy who's going to do this. If I make a mistake, please feel free to give me a call and correct me on my Bangla words. And between you and me, I used to make those mistakes pretty deliberately. People used to call up, they had so much fun that this guy is talking in my mother tongue. He may be making mistakes on a grammatical level, but there is something honest about it. And that somehow connected. For 8 years or 7 years of my life, I was talking in Bengali. So language is absolutely not a barrier. You just have to be honest and say, you may not be very comfortable in English. You may not be very comfortable in Hindi, Kannada, Telugu. Prithvi is a good example, right, Kay? Prithvi.
Prithvi is a fabulous example of that. Yeah. He's the best way if you want to tackle a language is he makes fun of himself. Yeah. Thereby, nobody else can make fun of you because you're already making fun of yourself. I want to go to this question from Sireen, and anybody can jump in. Have you ever picked up a very controversial story that's important to you and conveyed it using your own opinion, regardless of the consequences? I'm aware it's best to most often avoid controversial topics, but wouldn't you feel guilty not talking about something important with the large platform that you have?
Good question. Who wants to answer? Fali?
Whoever wants to jump in, anyone.
Okay, I think when it comes to radio, religion, politics, bashing women, things like that, certain things you cannot talk about on radio. But if there is a topic that you can talk about, or if you can get a guest who shares the same point of view that you're talking about, You can talk about the topic, but you have to keep in mind where you draw the line. It's very important. Um, so you have to keep in mind what it is, and if also whatever you're talking about fits into the theme or the purview of your show. You can't talk about something which is out of context, which doesn't fit in your show, which is not supposed to be in your show. So if I was a morning host and I'm talking about news, I'm talking about an important topic, I can do that. But if I'm an afternoon host and I'm talking about something else, I won't be able to do it. I hope that gave you some light.
I need to,
You have to keep in mind the rules of the radio station and, of course, the rules of what the Information Broadcasting Ministry lays out. We all have to follow the rules and we don't have a choice.
I'm going to move to a question. The next one is from Serene. I hope that answered your question. I think, Anita, you put that very beautifully.
Yeah, it's good. There have been jocks who have spoken and have been suspended. They were, because they talked about a ministry, they talked about a political party, and immediately were suspended. They had to leave the job.
Okay, this next one is from Jonah. In these current times where RJs are like public figures, is it okay for them to speak up on national issues, controversial, or are they restricted? Okay,
we just answered that.
We just answered that.
Question before that.
Parnika has, to what extent are radio shows scripted, or are they even scripted at all? Parnika, we have talked about this.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. But to answer your question, there are parts which are scripted, there are parts that are not, there are parts that are done on the fly, there are parts that are not. It's a good mix of both, but yes.
Okay, Saloni had the question that if RJ makes any mistake on it, how do they cover it? I mean, I met 14 RJs. I featured 14 RJs in the book. And I think many of them told me the same thing, that if we make a mistake, we admit we made a mistake. We say I made a mistake. So that, again, we come back to the same thing, being honest. People, can smell a fake falsehood. People smell a listener or viewer, whether you're watching a movie or you're a listener of a radio show or you're a listener of a music, you can smell fake falsehood. That's why it just always pays. Even the book on directors, I asked the directors one common question that, during a shoot, sometimes when you don't know what to do next, how do you take this scene? How do I shoot this scene? What do I do next? Where do I place the camera? What do you do? And 99.9% of them told me that we are honest to our cinematographer, we are honest to our actor, and we tell them, listen, I'm confused. I don't know how to proceed. I don't know how to shoot this scene. You tell me, what do you think I should do next? And those actors and the cinematographers then give you their best. They told me, cinematographers, actors give you their best. Your crew gives you your best when you're honest and you tell them, I'm confused, or I'm lost a little bit, or I'm not well. I don't know what to do next, or I don't have the energy right now. Can we take a break? Can we discuss this? You give me your ideas. It always helps across professions. I'm giving you an example of filmmakers because I've featured almost 36 eminent filmmakers in 2 books, and I featured the eminent radio presenters. They all say the same thing. Be honest. You make a mistake, say it on air. I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and joke about it, or maybe be serious about it, but be honest.
Rakesh, you're as good as your last link. If you make a mistake, then you come up with something really extraordinary so that, that mistake is forgotten. On a more lighter note, this happened years back. I mean, 2008 or 9, I guess. I was talking to my girlfriend. So all the RJs can relate to this. When you go on recording mode, you can actually give someone a call and then talk. I did not realize my PGM was on, and she was a doctor working on a late night shift. And I was like, hey, hi, I'm playing a song and I love you. And I'm just going to be, calling you right after the show. Stuff like that, just 1-2 minutes, thankfully nothing serious. Here's what happened. I'm hanging the phone, and then my mom sends me a message like, I can hear you on radio talking to Amy. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, what's happened? What do I do? And the first thing I just said, the calm attitude. I was like, this is 11:30 in the night, boss is not listening, so let's be quiet. If you make a mistake, don't go talking about it. but there's a city which is listening to you right now. What do I do about that? In 2 minutes, I give her a call and then I connect her back as like, okay, since you heard in between the song that I was actually talking to her, I need to introduce the special person, thanks to whom the playlist becomes all the more romantic post 11 o'clock, because that's the time she
Wow,
tends to listen
good
to it.
one, good one, good one.
And that
good one.
was so honest. I mean, you kill two birds with one stone. The girl's happy, the city's happy, mistakes covered, and life is good that way.
Okay, Pranav has a question. Pranav has a question. Who wants to answer it?
I'll just read the question for everybody. Are there instances where RJs have openly contradicted prominent statements that they have made in the past? If so, are there any things that have to be followed, like a procedure or something like that? Anybody?
I think because of social
Oh,
media,
for a bunch of
I think
RJs, are extremely quiet on the question.
I think because of social media, if you contradict something you have said, I think today a lot of them go on social media and just make the correction. Or I think these people are just too busy with their lives to bother about any correction. They say it's okay, I've done it, let's move on. So I must tell you a very interesting story about RJs. You know, I mean about radio. I mean we hear radio in the car, we hear radio at home. So I was in Mahabaleshwar. It's a hill station near Bombay, 5 hours from Bombay, and I was riding my bike. At 5 in the evening. It was a beautiful evening, and I was riding my bicycle, and I went into the hills. I went into the hills where there was nobody around. I didn't see anybody for 3-4 kilometers. And in this dense forest in Mahabaleshwar, hill station, I hear Hindi songs playing loudly, very loudly, as if somebody is playing music for the gods. It's just like a loudspeaker aimed at the sky. So I started following the sound, thinking that this dense jungle, and where is the sound coming from? The Hindi music playing in the wilderness. I have not seen a human being in the last 5 kilometers. And the road is desolate and it's all forest. So I went into this thick growth, and I came to a clearing, and it was a massive strawberry field. Strawberries were being grown over there, and there was a big banyan tree, and there a radio was hanging from a branch, and it was switched on, and it was playing loudly. And then a link came, and again, another song came, and there was nobody around there. So I said, I have to wait. Now I have to wait over and find out why is this radio playing for nobody, hanging from a tree in the middle of a strawberry garden. So I waited for 3, 4, 5 minutes, and suddenly eventually a farmer, I presume he was a farmer. He came walking towards me, and he wondered what am I doing there in his field, in his strawberry field. So I asked him that, "Aap kaun hai?" So he said, "Mera kheti hai ye. This is my field. I grow strawberries." So I said, "This music is playing so loudly. I mean, who are you playing it for? It can be. I mean, you could hear this music in a very soft manner also. Why is it playing so loudly? So that the whole field gets covered, So he said, no, I don't hear music. I'm not playing music. I'm not playing the radio to hear music. I'm playing this radio to scare away all the birds that eat my fruit. So he was the first person and the last person I came across who was using his radio transistor like a scarecrow. He was using it to scare away the birds. Yeah, it's there in the book. I mentioned in the book that radio as a scarecrow. His name was Kamble. He's from Mahabaleshwar, and he uses radio as a scarecrow. He doesn't hear radio. He doesn't like Hindi song. He doesn't like the links. He doesn't like the talk. He doesn't like the gyan. He just plays it to scare the birds.
Yeah, he's like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, Wizard of Oz, man.
Wizard of Oz. Genius.
So anyway, let's call it a night. I think you had a good time. Anybody wants to end? Okay, everybody gets one go at the last statement they want to make on this event, in this gathering.
I think can we just take that last, can we just take that last question?
Yes.
Is that all right, Rakesh?
Yeah, sure.
One question.
Pranav has. Oh, sorry, we did that.
Sanchita.
Sanchita says, one of you said, actually, this is to Arvind. My question is to Arvind. From what I hear, you're not a native of Kolkata. What did you do to know your city well enough to become a well-established RJ in an unfamiliar city besides speaking Bengali on air?
Okay, I was born in Bengaluru. My cousin and my entire family, they stay in Bengaluru. But I did my schooling and my college in Kolkata. So I have spent an entire childhood in the city, number one. But to answer your question, I could tell you more things about Bengaluru also. Thanks to my cousins, the ghee rice in Shivaji Nagar, or just be a traveler. The whole point is whichever city that you stay in, be it Bengaluru, be it Kolkata. I have two exercises for you, Sanchita. If you do this, you're not going to regret this. 365 days. See if you can meet 365 new people every day. One new person. It could be absolutely a random stranger. It gives you a vibe and a feel about your city. And on your weekends, so this is what I used to do. Paise nahi the, so who's going to travel across and everything else. Take the cycle out and then travel to different corners of Kolkata. That's what I still do. In fact, on weekends, we have a cycling group here. We have great fun, discovering all the street food joints. We look at our own city like a New York or a Bangkok or any other city. There are so many things to discover within your own city. You just need to have the right company, the right kind of people, right kind of bloggers. Meet with them, go out with them, and discover stories about your own city. But the whole point is, I'm going to give you a good exercise. Talk to the first stranger that you meet tomorrow. It could be in a metro, it could be in the auto. Just see how much of a conversation can you have with him, and you will find more things about your city than anyone else. The whole point is network, network, and network, and be like a traveler, man, wherever you stay. That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I have something to add over here. So only because I want to give the importance of the story, I'm going to mention that. So my dad, Unherd Bakshi, the lyricist, he wrote 3,500 songs, 634 films. And let me give you one of the secrets which he had, because of which he was able to write so many movies, 634 films and 3,500 songs. So when he began his career and he was looking for work, he would make sure that when he was looking for work, he would meet at least 5 new people daily. He would not go back home. He would not take the bus and go back home until he met 5 producers or 5 music composers or 5 filmmakers, directors daily. 5 new people, 5 people he meet today who he had not met yesterday. 5 people he would meet today who he not met day before yesterday. So those days there was no social media, there was nothing, there was no telephone calls, there was nothing, there was no mobile phone. So the only way that he could meet people is go from studio to studio to studio to studio to studio. One studio in Dadar, one in Koregaon, one in Andheri East, one in Bandra. Imagine, no social media, no mobile phones, no telephone, didn't have money to even travel by bus. Walking or by bus, he managed 5 new people every day. And that man, in 8 years, became a big name, and then he never looked back for the next 42 years. So I'm just saying that what Arvind said in 2020 is of what my dad did in 1956. Nothing has changed. We are the same people. Only our clothes have changed and technology has come in. But the path is the same. It's the same advice he's giving you today, which my dad did in 1956. How many years ago, dude? For 60 years, 80 years ago, 5 new people every day he used to meet. He should not go home before that. That's the kind of determination, that's the kind of passion, that's the kind of hunger to have work, to get good work. Okay, anybody, last statements, everybody.
I just got one thing to say. If you want to get into radio, you know that there are not that many radio host jobs or vacancies available. Get into radio, into whatever department, using the skill sets that you have, whether you're a good writer or whether you're great in marketing or whether, get into radio and work your way into becoming that radio host if that's what you wanted to be at the end of the day. Or if you wanted to work as a content writer, get into producing, work in different departments of radio to understand it, because all of them culminate together and become coherent, and that's what works so well with the radio host. So if you really want to get into radio, just get into it, whichever the department. And work.
Okay, now everybody, I want everyone to answer the same question. How do I get into radio? I want all you RJs to give an answer to this question. How do I get into radio? Because we want different perspectives from all of you about how do I get into radio. But before I go there, before we start from Fali, I want to say one more thing. when I met these 30, 36, 40 directors for my 2 books on directors' diaries, I asked them the same question. How does one become a director? How does one become a filmmaker? And most of them told me the same thing. Just take up any job in a film. Take up any job and make your way up. No one told me, they didn't tell me, oh, you have to join a film school or you have to be an assistant director. They said, become an assistant cinematographer, become an assistant production designer, become an assistant art director, become a writer. There are so many ways to get there. Exactly what Anita Naidu just said about RJ is even true about radio, about filmmakers. They say just get on a set, get into a production office and make your way up. Okay, Fali, how can one become a radio jockey today? Fali, start from Fali, and then we end. Everybody has to answer the question, then we pack up. Fali?
Yeah, most important is that you have to love yourself and your voice. If you don't love hearing your voice all the time and talking to people, you're never going to make it as an RJ. And I have this one philosophy: the best is yet to come. That was Frank Sinatra's line as well. So whatever show you're doing, the best is yet to come. You may have done fantastic shows, but the best show is yet to come. You must always be in that frame of mind. Whatever show you're doing is going to be the best you've ever done. Okay, if you want to be an RJ, that's it.
So damn true. I mean, I've read biographies and I've read biographies of artists. And even my dad would always say that I've yet to write my best song. After 45 years in the industry, he would say, I've yet to write my best song. Arvind, can you believe that? I've yet to write my best. I'm sure all of you feel that way. I've yet to do my best show. I've yet to give my best link. And that's what keeps us going. That's what keeps us alive. Keeps us passionate. That I've yet to do my best work. I've yet to write my best book. Okay, next, anybody wants to answer the question about how does one become an RJ today? Sonali?
Yeah, it's like, as Anita said and even Arvind said, it's like every day when you get up and when you have to go to radio station, it should be every day new day. The emotions and the inspiration वो अंदर से होनी चाहिए. जिस दिन आपको ऐसा लगता है कि अरे यार आज भी जाना है, then you have to think and decide कि भैया ये करना है नहीं करना है. So जब भी, because radio करना itself is a very creative work. It's not something कि, because every day is a new day. Every day something new is happening. Every day, हर दिन आपको कुछ तो भी नया बताना है और आपको energy constant बना के रखनी है. It's not like that कि क्या हो रहा है आपके मतलब back of your mind what is going on there. People are absolutely not concerned. So every day when the energy is there, every day new stories are there. Every day connectivity is there because every day new listeners are connected. So the energy, the connectivity and the vibe, the positivity, that's something जो आपको हर दिन आगे ले जाए, I feel is very important. And everybody, मतलब हर job में, it's not something which is related just to radio. In every job, it is very, very important. But with radio, it is a bit different because every day is a new day. आपको शायद कल जो किया है वो पीछे छोड़ के आगे जाना है. हर पायदान पे आगे बढ़ते जाना है. पिछली सीढ़ी को छोड़ के अगली सीढ़ी को देखना है. So I feel radio is like something more than the routine job. Positivity, connectivity, everything is there, but something new वाला जो एक फैक्टर होता है जो रेडियो हमेशा आपको देता है, क्योंकि शायद कल जिन्होंने कॉल किया वो आज नहीं करेंगे, आज जिन्होंने किया है वो शायद आपको भूल भी जाए, लेकिन और 10 लोग और भी कनेक्ट हो जाएंगे. So it's very something which is, it gives like immense positivity, it gives immense beautiful spirit कि आप इतने सारे लोगों से connected है, and that's something like radio for me, maybe I can say.
I must now again come in and say that the same thing what Sonali just said has been mentioned by filmmakers in my books, where they have said that the days and those movies where we didn't feel like going on the set in the morning, those movies never did well. Those movies where we went on the set thinking, oh my God, not another day. Oh my God, today another shoot. Those movies didn't do well in the box office. Something was off, and something was off, your work is off. Okay, next.
True. Shall I say something?
Of course, please do.
Okay. Okay, what I'm saying is that main important thing is to have fun and to also understand what kind of shows you are delivering, because it's very important to listen to yourself. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. You can't become good just suddenly one fine day. You need to hear to a lot of other RJs, and you also need to listen to yourself. That's the most important thing. And have one strong critic. To have the best, I mean the worst critic or the best critic, whoever he is or she is, will make you. आपको एक तो तगड़ा critic चाहिए life में ऊपर जाने के लिए. That's what I believe in. So that's what you need to hear, listen to yourself.
Who's your best critic?
मेरे घर पे है. उसने मेरी ना से धज्जियां उड़ा दी थी. He told me, what were you thinking? तुमने ये बोला, तुमने इतना लंबा बोला, 2 मिनट, तुम्हारा 1 मिनट का है ना टाइम. How can you talk for 2 minutes, 3 minutes? You're going on and on. So being the best, being a good radio jockey means to deliver, to convey your message in an interesting way in that bit, piece of time. It's not like, ऐसा नहीं होता कि आप talkative है, तो आप बोलते जा रहे हो. So radio jockey is not meant to be talkative. He's meant to hit the bullseye. जो emotion के साथ, those right set of words and link the song. ये सारी चीजें होनी चाहिए. And listen to yourself a lot. I used to hate listening to myself. My husband used to make me listen to myself. We used to record. He used to tell me, listen what you've done. I said, I was so scared. He said, no, listen. And now I can say I can listen to myself after many years.
Wow.
So एक ज़मीर होता है ना, just that.
Yeah, Rakesh, you're getting a lot of insights as to how to get into radio. But I just like to quote one of my favorite songs, and this is a song that I live by, written by Sahir Saab. Once you get into radio now, the only tip that I have for you today is say hi and be nice to everyone on the way up, because नीचे आने का रास्ता भी वही है. Because you will come back at some point of time. और साहिर साहब का एक गाना मुझे याद आता है, मुझसे पहले कितने शायर आए और आकर चले गए, कुछ आहें भर कर लौट गए, कुछ नगमे गाकर चले गए. So have a lot of humility when you approach the job. All those fans and adulations and people saying, oh, you have a wonderful voice and all that nonsense and stuff, it's going to die down, trust me. But it's just that little humility that you have, and every single presenter here in this room has that humility. I've learned a lot today, from Fali. I've learned a lot today from, Anita or Kay or Vaishali or Sonali or Rakesh or each one of you, who asked these wonderful questions. That is the only essence to move forward in radio. When you go for the interview, don't go as someone who knows it all. Just go as someone who doesn't know anything. Unlearn everything that you've learned and you'll get the job. Trust me on that.
Okay, now we need to wrap up. So my last question to all of you is going to be, Fali, can you dedicate one song to your mic? Which song would you dedicate to the mic?
Yeah, I put my mic back on.
Which song would you dedicate to the mic?
To the mic right now?
Yeah, the mic you speak on radio.
Okay, if I have to pick one song, I would say it's Elvis, Always on My Mind, because the mic is always on my mind, man.
Okay, next, Anita, what song would you dedicate to your mic?
Right now, Memories, Maroon 5.
Sonali, what song would you dedicate to your mic?
It's I'll get because there's so many songs in my mind. I'll come back because it's Ae Dil Hai Mushkil's title song maybe.
Okay, Vaishali, which song would you dedicate to the mic?
मेरी आवाज ही पहचान है, गर याद रहे, because it's given me everything. मैं जो आज हूँ हर तरह से रेडियो की वजह से, honestly. So,
okay,
सारी पहचान मेरी.
Kay, what song would you dedicate to the mic?
Mine would be Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence, because it's very important to talk.
Oh man,
it's very important to talk, but it's also to know when to keep quiet and listen.
Absolutely, I love that song. My favorite song. And who is left now? Arvind, what song would you dedicate to the mic?
एक प्यार का नगमा है, मौजों की रवानी है, जिंदगी बस तेरी मेरी एक छोटी सी कहानी है.
With this, good night, guys. Thank you very much for being on board with us. Thank you for bearing us.
Thank you.
I hope we were bearable, all of you. And lots
Thank
of love.
you,
And we want to hear all 14 unique voices on air one day, okay? All 14 unique voices, if not on air, in some medium, in some part of media.
I think there's more than 14, Rakesh. I think it's something like...
More than 14, yeah.
Yeah, 20, 22, 23 or something like that.
Oh, I thought there were 14 students. So you're giving away a book. What book is that you're giving away?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Just, Shreya
Time to plug in my book. Time to plug in my book.
Yeah.
So we're giving all the students Mr. Rakesh's book, Let's Talk on Air.
Whoa.
Yeah, I hope the book inspires you and hope you continue to, pursue your career in radio journalism.
Amazing.
All
so
the best
much.
to
Best
you all.
wishes.
Thank you
Anita, can
all.
you show the book?
Alistair.
Anita, can you show us the book?
Awesome.
Okay, guys. Good night. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so
Bye
much.
bye.
Thank you,
Good night.
speakers.
Thank you guys. Thank you everybody.
Many thanks to
Bye-bye.
Unheard,
Bye.
Alistair. Thanks to all of you all. Wow.
Thank you, Pagi.
Mera bhi
Fali's got, hey,
Boom.
Fali's got all my books. All my books.
By the way, sorry, on a last parting note, I want to say that Rakesh's book is about some of the best radio jockeys of all time, which is why I'm
Yeah.
not on it.
No, I didn't know you at that time.
I know, of course. I'm just playing. Thank you so much, guys.
Mr. Rakesh. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, everybody. It's going a long way for the
Bye.
students. Good night. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you to
Bye.
everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye. It was
Put up the video on
amazing. Thank
YouTube. Put it up on YouTube.
Yes.
Thank you, Alistair. Big
Thank you.
clap to you. Yeah, thanks for everything.
Thank you.
For arranging
Bye-bye.
this.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.